All right, live from Third Rock from the Sun, that big blue marble called Terra. Welcome to CLS After Dark. I'm your host, Mark. That rhymed. I know. That's what you're in for tonight, boys and girls. Childish humor. Seriously, though, it's going to be, we'll just see where this conversation goes. The title of tonight's episode is 2 Minutes to Midnight. The inauguration is, in essence, 2 days away. So that's kind of why I chose tonight's title. And we're very fortunate to have two great individuals with us. They've been on before. You've seen them. You love them. You know, you wish you were them. But, you know, Clint and P. Rick, a.k.a. Patrick, we'll just do what we always do just in case you haven't seen these gentlemen before. Just Clint, we'll start with you. And then to P. Rick, just a little quick something about your background. And then we're going to jump right into it. 2 minutes to midnight. You know, strap in, hands inside the ride, boys and girls. All right, Clint.
All right. Thanks for having me back, Mark and Patrick. Just a little bit about me. You know, I've worked with Mark in the past in the industry, you know, building some tactical gear and stuff. My background, got 25 years in the military, most of that in special operations with the Rangers, the Special Forces, and been on the podium numerous times, airborne instructor, special forces instructor, so on and so forth. So I got to do a lot of good stuff, got to travel the world. I currently, I run a company that I have a camouflage brand, and I just enjoy working around the industry and hanging out with like-minded people. Common sense people that like to see you know, things to function properly, and I enjoy coming on here and talking with Mark and Patrick and the other guests that come on, because they are those like-minded people. So that's what I got.
And honestly, and so are all the boys and girls who take the time to watch the show, whether you're here with us tonight live or you're watching on demand. You know, I'm pretty lucky. Although I did get a little bit of hate for last night's show, boys, because I don't know if it's because I talked smack about cheap ass gear from China, or I had a handgun, like a training weapon, not even like, and I was showing our belt. You know, I only get hate when I'm working out, and when I'm doing something to improve myself, I get hate. So we're not going to get any hate tonight because everybody who's here gets it as well. And now let's kind of come. Oh, I'm sorry. And one last thing. Clint makes if you're wondering about the camouflage, it's Nemesis camouflage. We've made a bunch of products off of it. You know, we're starting the new year. It's going to be one of our kind of our stand to, or, you know, our go-to colors. It's a good camo, you know, and hopefully, you know, we're all alive, you know, come next week, not dead in a thermonuclear explosion, and we can get out there and use gear. All right, P. Rick, bring it over to you, sir. Oh, go ahead.
I got one alibi before Patrick jumps in. Just want to say, when I drag this over and put it on my social media, you know, if the current trajectory keeps going with Nemesis camo, we're looking real good. There's a lot of people, got a lot of brand partners that are coming on, just good, like you, Mark, and doing great things. So I'm real happy with how that's going. So when I take this over and share it as well, and some of those people are seeing, I like to say thanks to all those brand partners, including Mark.
Right on, right on. Yeah, no, Nemesis.
Sorry, Pat.
Yeah. All right, P. Rick. You know, it's really Patrick, but P. Rick, shorten it, kind of reminds me of Pickle Rick. You know, he's kind of a badass. So Patrick is definitely kind of a badass. I'll just say it before he gives his little intro. One of the best planning minds I've ever seen. Just down to earth, common sense, knows the right questions to ask and the right problems to solve. So on that note, after I just done patting Patrick on the back there, go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah. Hey,
Brett, you just might say, hey, that's it. Enough said, you know?
Well, enough. So I'll say this. So as far as that goes, my wife's a elementary school teacher, and her signature line on all her emails says, hey, I think it's an Einstein quote. If you can't explain it to like a 6-year-old, then you don't understand it yourself. So I always kind of look at things like that, like, hey, you know, we can give these big, wild, complex theories and things like that, but if you can't break it down to, you know, the regular person, and maybe you don't understand it enough, right?
Yeah.
So, but anyway, I grew up in as one of Uncle Sam's misguided children, aka the USMC. Moved on and got into law enforcement. In law enforcement, I was able to do kind of a lot of stuff. So between local patrol stuff, narcotics work with state police unit, and then ultimately worked with SWAT teams. And then, you know, I even kind of like interspersed in between there, I worked with Mark at CIA. We actually served in the military for a short time together too. And currently I am now a part of the Department of Homeland Security. So therein lies my my obligatory statement I have to make, that all comments and opinions I give tonight are mine and mine alone, proudly, and do not reflect, or maybe they will, but they don't right now. They don't reflect, the official stance of the Department of Homeland Security. So there you go.
All right, boys and girls. I mean, obviously, just great human beings, great Americans, good heads on their shoulder. Those intros aren't to say, hey, look at me. It's so you understand that, the comments that we're making, these aren't crazy people. We're not crazy. You can disagree with us, but if you're going to disagree with it, you're going to have to come to the table with some pretty logical, reasoning and assessments. And it can't just be, well, I watched it on a YouTube video or I saw a movie once, right? These guys kind of got that trumped in spades. So we'll go from there. Hey, these, Friday night lives or these CLS After Darks, thanks to everybody who's taking the time to join their Friday night. I hope you're having an adult beverage. And, we're going to start doing more of the chat. If you got questions specific for Clint or for P-Rick as the conversation goes, we're going to try to bring those on and, get you guys in here as much as we can. Otherwise, I'm just going to probably pop people on like this. I'm going to give them a quick shout out. Gene with a big woo. Snowshoe Dave checking in. Learn me something, saying good evening. Henner Ben from Minnesota. That's what I'm talking about. Tell us where you're all from, man. That actually really does, because that made that one episode really good, because we knew we were talking to somebody from Sweden, somebody from the UK, and somebody from Cali. It's a perspectives thing, so that kind of helps you understand. And Gene is correct. Clint, you are also a film star, are you not?
That's the rumor.
All right, here we go. We're going to jump right into it. And I'm going to start it off by posing a question. So again, the title of tonight, 2 minutes to midnight. The logic or the topics, if you want to, it's not a singular topic. You're going to see this is going to be kind of not all encompassing, but we're definitely going to be feeding off each other. There's going to be second and third order effects here. The inauguration is on Monday. There are, and depending on what social media you kind of peruse or you digest, if it's, dinosaur legacy media, you're probably not hearing anything about any of these issues, right? But if you look at any alt media, and I'm serious, that's why they hate Twitter all of a sudden, or X. Everybody loved Elon Musk until he started bringing back free speech. What's going on with Facebook and Zuckerberg? We'll see. Time will tell if they actually, put their money where their mouth is, or if that's just, oh shit, the hammer's about to come down. But depending where you get your media, some of these stories and these topics you may not know about. I'm assuming if you're here watching this video, you probably are following this type of news and you have at least a general idea of some of these subjects. But we've had multiple assassination attempts against, soon to be President Trump, the nominee. There's been lawfare. You can disagree with it. You don't have to like the guy, but if you look in and you actually listen to any legal scholars, it's clearly frivolous. I mean, and just look at the statements by the individuals themselves. I mean, I know that's not admissible in a court of law, but it's pretty damning to me. Well, we're going to get that son of a, it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And then, recently we've had these drones. This, no one in the administration wants to talk about, well, what are these drones? And just, nothing to see here, folks. These aren't the droids you're looking for. Multiple assassination attempts. Iran posturing and blustering, a war between Russia and Ukraine. China very clearly poised to, maybe cause some shenanigans. They just released a 6th generation fighter, which, the Chinese government didn't create that. They stole that from, through economic or industrial espionage, or what we probably will talk about, or just some people in America in our military industry or government just gave the information away. This outgoing president may have been one of those people. I mean, no one wants to talk about that. That's been brushed. He had no authority to have in his possession any of those documents. Period. Doesn't matter if he was the vice president. And, and these two gentlemen know exactly what I'm talking about. That is not how, security works. That's not how you manage classified materials, not even remotely close. So what was going on with those materials? And then just before I kind of ask my question, I'm just trying to paint the stage. You take this back in history, even all the way to the Obama administration, And look, the Bush administrations did shitty things too. So this isn't just I'm picking on one side, and you'll see that later as we continue talking. But if you take it all the way back to the Obama administration and the statements that were made, the direction, how everything moved, well, and just if you've forgotten, which most people have, pallets of cash flowing to Iran in the middle of the night. More recently, we've had individuals within this administration that have been identified and found guilty of spying or colluding with Iran. So there's a huge rot. And if you don't, I guess I should finish this up. The reason I keep bringing up Iran is because during the first Trump presidency, he killed the head of what's called the IRGC Quds Force. The IRGC is the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps, and then the Quds Force is kind of like, one of their special action kind of wings of that. And the guy's name was Soleimani, and that's one of the only military actions that Trump took. And that that's a hugely placed individual in Iran. So Iran probably definitely has a bone to pick and would love to see things. We have apologists and people within our administration that are willing to at least turn a blind eye, or look the other way. We've had multiple assassination attempts that have already been taking place. That very first guy, I'm here to tell you, I have yet to hear any reasoning for why they handled that investigation and how they handled not only the crime scene, but then the individual's house, the parents. That story has disappeared. And if this administration is able to take office and initiate legally, and then this is all within a totally above board legal actions they could take, I'm here to tell you, we're going to find out that a lot of people in our government on both sides of the aisle, whether they're elected officials or unelected bureaucrats, we're going to find out that a shit ton of people have committed crimes, real crimes, at minimum sedition, treason, financial crimes, just all. There's going to be a reckoning coming. So if that's the case, now here's my question after that long buildup. So again, if these people really exist, if I'm, tinfoil hat on or off, however you want to think what I just said. Oh, Mark's crazy. That doesn't exist. Okay, you do you. You just tell me where you're going to be so I can be someplace else. But if these people exist, if this is real, do you really believe that they're just going to go quietly into the dark, or they're going to say, okay, you got me. I tried to kill you a couple times. I guess I'm going to jail. That isn't, in my opinion, how these evil, nefarious individuals will handle things. So therefore, I still believe we're in an incredibly dangerous situation. And I've said it multiple times. And it doesn't just end with inauguration. We still have about 180 days. Well, it'll be every day of the presidency, but we've got 180 days to make an impact and really bring about some change. So if evil exists, and if these things I said are even remotely true, then you can expect that there's going to be some counter measures, some counter actions, some, what they're not going to sit on their hands and let this happen. So the question is, and we'll start with Clint. No, let's mix it up. Let's go to P. Rick. Let's go down. Let's go counterclockwise. So we'll start with P. Rick, come over to Clint. The question is, first and foremost, do you think there is a threat against the president that could take place between now and or on inauguration day? And if you think there is, if you're willing to kind of speculate, what do you think that threat could be? How dangerous is it? How likely? However you want to do it. But you kind of see where I'm going, P. Rick and Clint?
Yep.
Okay, Patrick, let's start with you, sir.
So short answer is absolutely. There's a clear threat to the president and the administration coming in as well. But and a lot of that comes from the Iranians and Soleimani. Look what we're doing. To kind of like they're going to cut off the money to Iran. That's going to cut off the money flow into Lebanese Hezbollah, Hamas, and all the the pro Iranian militia groups, right?
Hey, and I'm sorry to interrupt because I forgot this in my little monologue, but it's important. Just like 2 weeks ago, this administration, or maybe it was a month ago, removed a sanction that allowed, and this I think has happened twice in the last year. So I don't know if you're going to bring that up, Patrick, but they removed sanctions that in essence freed up billions of dollars. Yeah. And then their argument was like, well, yeah, but they can't use it for terrorism. Like, well, that's like telling a bad guy he can't have a gun. But if I can't use it, so if that money really only has to go for agriculture, Well, then you just freed me up of my money that I was spending on it. It still is the same thing, no matter what kind of word games. So, Patrick, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's another huge thing, because it goes, I think it shows whatever. I mean, it just shows that for some reason we've got people, we're still giving. Can you guys confirm this? Are we still giving like the Taliban money every fucking month?
I think they if they didn't completely, I don't think they completely cut it off, but I think they severely like cut back on it. The figure I heard bandied about was somewhere in like the $80+ million a week. And it was supposed to go to the rebuilding of Afghanistan and help them build schools for the kids and, you know, the women. And it's like, who are you giving this money to? And why do you think that they would even consider this? They're going to put it right into, you know, oppressing the country and holding them down, and maybe like, you know, funding operations abroad. And that's yet another threat stream, right, to President Trump's inauguration. So you've got the Iranians, you've got all these people that were brought over here during Operation Allies Welcome from Afghanistan, who the default mode, if there was nothing, you know, recorded or no information in DoD systems, the automatic default was like, okay, well, let's send them on. Welcome to the United States. And just because somebody, you know, doesn't have, you know, derogatory information in a classified system, maybe they were good. Maybe they just weren't captured on the battlefield and documented. Maybe they, you know, were involved in numerous battles. And now you've just brought that person into the United States, and there is no telling how many of those folks are out there. You've got, let's see, who else stands to lose from President Trump taking office? You know, the Chinese. Now, I don't think that they would take like an overt, you know, action themselves, but guess what? They could use a cutout and use some of these, you know, Hezbollah folks. You could use the Afghanis. You know, the possibilities are endless. So yeah, there's a threat. I take solace in the fact that I heard probably around noon today that they were not going to do the traditional thing outside the Capitol. They were going to move it inside the U.S. Capitol in the rotunda. And so from a protection standpoint, that really cuts down on the amount of people you have to watch and focus on. So that's why I'm a little bit optimistic that, hey, you know, even if there is a threat, the likelihood of them getting through is pretty low. Doesn't mean it's impossible, but I think it's significantly lowers it. Of course, the reason for, you know, switching it is because there's severe weather coming in, like severe cold weather in DC, and they say, oh, we don't want to do it and have everybody being cold. Maybe that's true too, but I think the reality is, okay, let's keep the man safe because there's already been 2 attempts on his life
that we know of.
Right? Yeah. So, and there's people coming into the United States left, right, and sideways. So I know that there's operations around the country to monitor anybody that, you know, says, hey, I'm here for the inauguration, and figure out who the hell they are. So at least there's you know, things are in place. So how it gets executed, though, of course, that means everything. So we'll see how it goes, you know, and say our prayers.
So that to me sounds like, if I were to like sum it up, you're kind of giving it a yeah, there is a threat. The threat is real. However, moving it to the Capitol Rotunda is potentially a good enough mitigation measure where it's going to improve the overall security posture.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And to add to this, and this is something I think, you know, I've talked to you about, other folks on different you know, mediums and whatnot, but you know, the people in the government that actually want to do their jobs and actually care about the country, and I'd say that's the majority of the employees. We felt like we've been restrained for a long time, for 4 years, and now people are, I mean, like the morale level is definitely picking up. Our operational tempo is already starting. We've been planning now for the past like month and a half, right? So it's not like we're going to wait until, you know, the president comes in the office and start planning and preparing. We've been doing that already, because that's the guidance that was given by the transition team. That in and of itself is motivating, and I haven't smiled about like the potential for work in quite some time. So this directly impacts my day-to-day, you know, job. So I'm very motivated.
All right. Good analysis. Thanks for your perspective. Clint, how about you? What are your thoughts on that? Is there a threat? If so, if you want to break it down into high, low, or whatever, if you want to do probabilities or the type of threat, and what do you think we can do to mitigate it? Or if there isn't a threat, then why are we all on silly juice?
No, I mean, a lot of the stuff that I was kind of like right along with what Patrick was saying. It was really nice to hear that they moved it from an outside to inside venue, because that just changed the whole dynamic. There's going to be so many people that are limited in line of sight now. I mean, just being outside and exposed, in DC with a large crowd to inside to where they're going to be able to control access totally changed the thing. The one thing, and I'll ask both of you, because I didn't hear this, and Mark and I talked earlier today about a couple of topics. And, has anybody heard if he's going to do the walk down, what's the road right from the Capitol to the White House?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Okay. So Pennsylvania Avenue. Is he going to do the walk?
I have not heard.
Because, they usually do that. He's done it before. I have a feeling that they're not going to do that. They're doing it inside. And I think that their security has really, they know we're at T-minus getting ready to inaugurate, and it's time to be safe. And I think that's what they're doing. Plus, I think there's a lot of people that are starting to feel the divine intervention. They're like, how in the world could they throw everything that they've thrown at this man, and he's getting ready to swear in on Monday? It's been hard to describe, of all the things that man has been through and withstood, and is still he's gonna swear in. Amazing. So I was glad to hear that they were going to do it inside. Yeah, there's a threat. There's all kinds of threat. We have all kinds of people running all over this country from every bad place that you can think of. So many gotaways. I've been watching the confirmation hearings. It's fun watching people that are not that smart now have to deal with people that are smart.
Yeah.
You're talking about congressmen suddenly dealing with individuals, who aren't willing to put up their bullshit and know a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
They do.
It's been kind of fun watching the confirmation hearings, because they were kind of waiting for these people to fall on their faces. Not at all. They just dominated the confirmation hearings. So, I mean, it's going to be really nice having people. When we did the last CLS at night, I was listening in or whatever a little bit, and the leadership stuff, like Patrick said, I mean, night and day. We're getting ready. The game is changing, and when they get these people in there, and he starts doing these executive orders, and he has these, they call them loyalists, but anybody that gets in an administration is that. It doesn't matter whether it's Democrats or Republicans. Of course, you're a loyalist, So, yeah, he's got his crew in here this time, but he got a bunch of smart people. And the mandate, they're having a hard time fighting the mandate, because they know it was that big, So they get these smart people in there, do the confirmation hearing, and they're like, wow, this person's on their game. And, they've all been caught with their hand in the cookie jar at this point. They don't want to push it too far.
Just to your point real quickly, Clint, it wasn't Trump himself, but I can't remember who it is from his incoming cabinet. They didn't really quite say it the way you just did, but they kind of also talked about it. Like, because somebody, I think, somebody in the press pool had asked them, like, what's different this time around? And their question was, well, we're not going to get hoodwinked in, we had a much smaller transition team, or the, whatever they call their incoming team, or they're just their team. Their team was much smaller. They weren't DC insiders. Yeah, he's a multi-billionaire, but that doesn't make him a DC insider. And they got played. And that kind of goes to both what you guys have been saying. No one had any problems with some of those other individuals. And, the first confirmation hearings from back in 2016, now we have issues because, as you said, because it's like, no, you're not putting one of our hand-picked or wink, nod, nods, or we know he's on the take and he's dirty too, and he's one of us, there isn't that, and I haven't watched myself, I haven't had the chance to watch, the full process, but I've seen clips, obviously, of some of the nominees. And, you're absolutely right, Clint. You know, and Patrick, I think you said you saw Rubio. I think maybe you saw Rubio. Maybe that was you, or was that Pat or Clint? But like, you're absolutely right, Clint. I mean, and it's nice to see, because, you know, I think some of these people who are doing these line of questioning, they're evil. They really don't care about America. Look, you know, when Obama took office, as much as I totally disagreed with his policy, and, you know, both domestic and foreign, you know, your first thought as American is like, okay, I hope he just gets some good people around him and we do some good things, and America moves the ball down the field, right? You know, as opposed to going backwards. And then you kind of see, you know, like, oh shit, that was a total shit show. You know, I'm not even sure if, you know, like, who was really running it the last, you know, 2 or 4 years in this administration. I mean, so that buggers a bunch of questions even right there. But again, bringing it back over to Clint, I guess what I was really trying to say is, you know, when you see, I don't know if I'm really kind of making sense. So Obama, well, here, I'm going to move on because I'm rambling a little bit, you know, but you get where I'm getting.
I think what you were trying to say is these are people, it's like being a tourist. You go somewhere one time, but when you return to that place, you kind of know what's on the ground. You know, you've been there, you know, so you kind of know your way around the neighborhood. This is Trump 2.0, and it sustains and improves.
And thanks, you did that way better. And because that person was saying what you just said, like, we're not going to be fooled by this bullshit again. You know, we've seen it. We've been here before. We know your taxi cabs, you know, drive us around in circles. We know you give us the watered down beers, you know, like we know the tricks you guys play. And then, so again, to your point on some of these, you know, the nomination process, there's just been some incredible smackdowns, and I guess just on that point, you know, wherever you want to go with this, Patrick, and it's glorious to see, because maybe there is going to be a reckoning. The mainstream media looks like complete fucking retards right now. I mean, just total jackasses and the liars. CNN just lost their defamation lawsuit today too. You know, straight up. I mean, and during disclosure, all of those emails, they just got like, is this who people are listening to? So it's nice, and I agree with you. It's nice to see. Again, I only saw Bondi. I saw clips from Bondi and Hegseth. I didn't see anything from Nunes, but I heard he cleaned house with them too. But Bondi and Hegseth, not Nunes, excuse me, Bondi and Hegseth, they took no prisoners. They left bodies on the fucking floor. They eviscerated the people asking them stupid questions, plain and simple. I hope that's what we get, because we need it, right? Otherwise, I mean, again, and that's maybe where I was going with the whole kind of weird, in a strange way, with the Obama comment. We have unfortunately been subjected to this for a very long time. That rot is deep. It's going to take, like what Clint's saying, it's going to take this caliber of people to come in here working within the confines of our Constitution, our constitutional law. But if laws have been broken, dude, you guys just said it for 4 years. No one's above the law. That's right, motherfuckers. No one's above the law. New sheriff in town, but the law is still the same. Rick?
Amen. Well, I got to tell you, I was very happy to see Kristi Noem, how she performed and how she responded to the questions. And, you know, from the standpoint of taking over for Secretary of DHS, and again, this opinion's mine, but it's proudly mine. The bar is pretty low to be better than Mayorkas. The bar's pretty low, so you don't have to do a lot to you know, surpass him. But
you just have to show up. You just have to show up to work.
Right. I mean, that was, well, okay. Well, since you brought that up, one of the things that Alejandro Mayorkas is famous for within DHS circles is giving out what he called administrative leave for a variety. Oh, hey, it's, you know, Easter. Hey, here's 16 hours of administrative leave. On his way out the door, his farewell email address to everyone in DHS, he awarded, I want to say it was 24 hours of leave. And you know, so it's basically he's opened the border, treated our Border Patrol agents and CBP officers like complete crap. And then to make matters worse, it's like an abusive parent. I'm going to slap you around and beat you, but oh, you know what? Hey, here's $50.
Yeah, here's an ice cream cone.
And it actually further weakens the workforce, because now people have this extra leave that they have to take, and the supervisors have to let them take it. And on top of like whatever leave you already have, it's just the worst case scenario. So there's all kinds of memes and things like that internally that people send around. But yeah, he was known as Santo Mayorkas, the patron saint of admin leave. And all that did was weaken it even more, So I'm really happy to see Governor Nome come in and take the reins, because right off the bat, I think all the DEI initiatives and all that crap is going to go. We're going to get back to our core mission, and we're going to be supported in that. I was happy to hear them talk about the northern border too, because I deal with a lot of the Chinese threat, and Canada has just been a safe haven for a lot of like we'll just say senior Chinese people on the intel side. It's just come and go. I think we're now going to clamp down on that stuff. So I personally feel like a Belgian Malinois that's had a muzzle on for 4 years, and now they're saying, hey, here's some meat, and we're getting ready to take that thing off. So, and I'm like everybody else, we're ready to go. And that was really, I'm telling you, it was great to see that. And just, the Attorney General coming in, that's going to be huge, because so many, crimes have not been charged, by U.S. Attorney's Office, and that goes all the way up to Merrick Garland. It's his fault. There's guidance that's put out from them, and that comes from the administration. Hopefully that along with Kash Patel will help bolster and redirect the FBI and being, going back to what it was supposed to do. So yeah, I'm optimistic in a big way. So I've been trampled on for 4 years. So now it's I'm going to celebrate.
Hey, before we go over to Clint, I just want you to say his nickname again. I've never heard that, and I read a lot, pay attention to news. So, hey, if you're here live or if you watch this on demand, I've never heard this. This might be the first time so breaking news from CLS After Dark. Yeah. What was his nickname?
His nickname was Santo Mayorkas, the patron saint of admin leave.
Such fucking horrible leadership. I mean, but that's it. It's also, I'm bribing you guys to not resist. I'm bribing you guys who are so thin-skinned and mushy-hearted and no willpower or no morals. You're not going to say anything about me or speak out against our policies, because look at all the free shit I'm giving you. You're a government employee and you're living
patronizing, and it's manipulation,
Yeah. Hey, Clint, one thing I want to come back over to you on is, I can't remember who it was, but we were talking about loyalists. So, and you were saying, duh, that's what everybody does, right? They do it too. So, I think during that first term, that first presidency. So again, and that was maybe one of the other things I was trying to bring it back full circle to, is that, the people who were appointed were not loyalists. And this time around, and then, and Patrick just listed off, like, these are impressive people, and they are, because the press is trying to tell you they're stupid. For the last, 8 years, all we've heard is how Trump is evil, Trump is Hitler, Trump is an idiot. But then, the next thing is Trump is like, hold it, is he an idiot or is he a fucking genius? I mean, I don't know very many idiots, unless you're some kind of idiot savant, who are billionaires or who've done the things that they've done. And if he's so evil, why didn't he do it the first time when he had the chance? So in that list of people Patrick just labeled or listed off, Battelle, Holman, Nome. No, there's one or two picks we're not all going to agree with. I mean, I'm not a big fan of what's her face? Why can't I think of it? She used to be a Democrat, and she's Tulsi Gabbard. Yeah, no offense to Tulsi Gabbard, but she used to be a Democrat, and she's said some things that are pretty anti-Second Amendment, and I'm a constitutionalist. I want to conserve that. I think that's the rule of the law. There it is. It's written. You don't break that unless you go through the constitutional process, which Joe Biden just lied about today, by the way. He just tried to claim that the 25th Amendment has been ratified. It has not been ratified. It's just and there was a really good article just laying bare how stupid, but that's just how stupid people become, and all these politicians oh, no, this is true. It's no, it isn't true. You didn't go through the process. It didn't happen the way it's supposed to happen. And the Supreme Court's already struck it down. So anyway, bringing it back over to Clint, what are your thoughts on, first we have to have administration for this to take place, but can the Kash Patels, the Holmans, the Bondis, the Tulsi, the Gabbard, is that going to be enough to make a difference? Do you think going forward? Again, if we can get over this 2 minute to midnight hump, the threat isn't going to necessarily go away, but is that enough to start really, building up your fucking fire team and getting some shit done?
I mean, it's just like Patrick just said. I mean, the example that the administration has set for the last 4 years is lawlessness. And you have seen that permeate, trickle down all the way to everyday citizens, to where they know that there's not as many law enforcement officers on the street. They're doing more stuff. It's an example that they're setting from the top, and our society is reflecting that in the curve. You see this stuff going up there, and everybody's questioning. I'm watching these videos, watching thousands of people coming across the border, and this guy's telling me it's not happening. He's lying. So when you keep hearing this over and over again from the people that are in charge, everybody else starts to get this cop of crap attitude, and it's very dramatically going to change very quickly, because you see really smart people that are passionate that are going to get into these departments and are going to flip this really, really quickly. So I think that even at Patrick, where he's working right now, you're seeing people exciting to start seeing that rule of law, honesty, integrity, character, all those that the society is looking at, saying, hey, Trump loves this country. He doesn't have to do this. He can go sit on beach, but this guy's passionate. He wants to fix this. And he has picked all of these freaking smart people we're watching chew these no-gooders, that have been sitting up there lying to us for 4 years. They're ready. People are ready. And if the executive order comes in, and I don't know exactly how that works. I'm not that smart, but I know there's a whole lot of the bureaucracy that you can't just fire, but if he signs that executive order and says, okay, all my frontline people here, Department of Energy, Department of State, Department of, all of them, you have my blessing to go in there and start rooting out the deep state and fire them. If you already know they were involved in this, listen to the whistleblowers, figure out who's who, send them, take their stapler and put them in the basement, until they're clean their desk out.
Yeah. Hey, so I got to add to that, like, combine that with Doge, right? Because there is and we all know it, there's a healthy amount of federal employees that don't do a damn thing. And if they could come in there and check people's performance metrics on some level and say, hey, guess what? You're sick all the time, or you don't do this and you don't do that, and you've got an excuse, you got to go. Hey, you're a federal employee for life, no matter, that needs to stop.
Yeah, Patrick, I mean, great point. And that was why I was going to go to that. And I was having that thought a minute ago. They start telling us they literally have hundreds of buildings in DC that are empty. People still sitting home from COVID. It's like, get back in the office, man. We need all hands on deck. This has got to start working. We got to start. If we're going to spend this money for you to be here, something's got to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I wanted to bring that whole thing up as like, and this has gone on way too fucking long, but that goes into, that top down negative attitude, lazy,
exactly.
And that's why you see, but again, that's buying out that's evil, buying the loyalty of other evil, lazy ass government employees. I mean, seriously. Oh, look, how many exposés do we need of, here's a person who's working at energy, and then she's also working at transportation, and it's not even clear how she can be working at both places, but she never shows up to either one of them, but she's making like $400,000 a year because of all the and she's never even in the office.
Not only Mark is not the employee not there, you're heating, air conditioning, paying rent,
operating
on
costs,
the land, whatever, you're paying for these buildings for maintenance. There's nobody there.
Yeah. Hey, I will tell you that I see that still on a regular basis. It's not as bad, but it's still a thing. I work in a job, where I have to go in to use, skiffs and things like that. So that, that's non-negotiable for me. But so many times I walk into buildings and it's empty. Go work on a Friday. by the afternoon, like it's ghost town. I'm like, how is this possible? You know, like
Yeah.
this doesn't make any sense. And then there's nobody around to ask for troubleshooting on, you know, IT issues or whatever the case is. And it's like, oh, well, they'll be back Monday. I'm like, well, why the fuck aren't, pardon my French, but why the fuck aren't they here now? Because it's, I don't know, it's the work day. And if they're not off, why aren't they here? You know, it just,
it's Friday and we're government employees.
It needs to be gutted. And we just need to, like, efficiency needs to be like a key focus for, you know, number one, get back on our, you know, assigned missions that we were created for. And number two, let's be efficient so that we can, you know, cut the fat and be more effective at what we're doing.
Yeah. All right. I want to come back to the kind of a little bit more of the tactical aspect of it. You know, you guys bring a whole bunch to the table, both on that side and then what we're talking about. So let's just kind of, I got one more question to ask both you guys on kind of the general theme of where we are right now, the accountability and the laziness. And, I can say this more for P. Rick than Clint. Clint, though I'm sure you've been in the same environment, but P. Rick, like you just said, a Friday at headquarters, Langley, motherfucking cricket, and heaven help you. We were always trying to look out for our brothers. There was always somebody, because our guys were still working. It didn't matter if it was Friday back here in the States. There's somebody on mission right now. You got to have somebody there. But that's not what it was, or if you were in the office, you spent half your time down in the cafeteria and at the Starbucks, or wandering the halls, or going off and hanging out with people, or, some division is having a party and, somebody over there, and so you spend half the day getting drunk at fucking headquarters, So Patrick, I mean, yeah, that has always been an issue. And that is something that needs to just get shut down. And that headquarters mentality that I'm untouchable. I mean, look, I'm sure you guys in whatever occupations, anybody watching, and, and this is going to maybe sound sexist, and somebody can say that to me all you want, but it's the truth. It's like we used to call them the tennis shoe wearing or the sweater wearing, like admin, person. And that person was such a pain in the ass to everybody that management wouldn't fucking put her in her place and say, like, no, why are you harassing these guys? That they're fucking doing their paperwork, or they're submitting their whatever they're doing for, the operation they're doing. And you're mad at them because he didn't bring you a cookie, or didn't say something nice to you. So P. Rick, I was doing one of our most advanced training things that we have when it comes to surveillance. I'm living off of less than 4 hours of sleep a day. And I'm not joking, boys and girls. It was the greatest training I've ever had in my life. But now I'm in our little office where you've got to do some paperwork and you get your briefs and all that kind of stuff. And here's a sink. What is a sink for? Do you drink? I mean, do you fill a sink up with water and drink it out of a sink? No, you put dirty dishes in it. There's dirty food. I'm on the go. The bathroom's all the way in the other end of the hallway. I had a little satchel, your go bag. And I whip out my toothpaste, my toothbrush, and I brush my teeth real quickly because I got 5 seconds before I've got to go do my next debrief. And I spit into the sink and I rinse it down. Well, the tennis shoe wearers complained, to the chief, and he's like, they're trying to chew me out. Like, hey, you can't do it. I'm like, why? It's a sink. Are we really talking about this? And I said that. I'm like, are we really talking about this? He's like, well, the ladies. I'm like, the ladies aren't fucking working 20, 22 hours a day. They can fuck off. Seriously. So,
yeah. The tennis shoe wearing cat ladies.
Thank you. Thank you. But so here's what I want to go. The question I want to bring it. Well, hang on, Clint, do you got your own little story about tennis shoe wearing cat ladies in your line of work, your previous existence?
No, I'm going to avoid that.
You're not touching that one.
Good.
All right. Well, okay. So it's also an analogy for those type of, naysayers, those headquarters Henrys, those people who stand in the way because, it's not them, or you'll get credit for something that I want to take, it's the same thing, right? Every organization has people like this within it. So to your guys' point, how are those people have to be put on notice. And a lot of those people went along with this. I guarantee there's a ton of people, contrary to what anyone else says. This is my humble opinion. There's a lot of people in the FBI who know about the bullshit the FBI has been pulling. So I don't want to hear that, well, it's only the senior management. That's not how any organization works, especially in those levels. There's a lot of younger, lower guys, maybe in like the 12, 13, 14, GS 12, 13, or 14 category. They know exactly what's going on, and they've been going along with it. So to you guys, how do we overcome that? Are those guys as guilty? Is there a way, because it's gonna, like, if we found out you lied under oath about anything in front of Congress, I think that's got to be like, and then letting people know, you come forward and help us figure out, because this rot has to be excised, and it has to be excised now, because it's like the blob. It's on your arm, and it's going to be all consuming. Even though Trump just won, it's going to be hard. We've got to fight it like it's one of the most important battles, because it's the battle for freedom, and it just plain and simply is, in my opinion. You guys, what do you think? How do we do that?
Well, I got an anecdote to that. So I'm friends with a guy who's used to be at the Washington field office during the whole January 6th thing. They got pulled into to work in that type of stuff, and they're doing everything they can. You'd think that like the Iranians like had a hit team out there trying to take out Biden or something. The way that they were going at it with intensity. He got to the point where he shared with me offline, like, hey, man, I don't know what we're doing here. At the most, we're going to be able to charge people with trespass. And we're wasting a shit ton of time, money, and manpower towards this. So he put in a transfer that got approved. So he moved to another field office, but then they still kept hitting him up like, hey, did you finish up this file and that file? And it's just shameful, but that goes to the leadership. That's what they were driven to do. And that's the sad thing about it, is that was clearly political. I mean, like, I'm sorry. That's not an insurgency. The only firing of weapons was by some shell-shocked, poorly trained Capitol police officer who just started shooting into a crowd and happened to hit a lady and kill her.
Ashley Babbitt.
And yeah, on that note, from a law enforcement perspective, if I were to do that on the street and I didn't have justification to shoot, boom. And I can name officer after officer around the country that's been involved in similar stuff like that, where they probably were justified in shooting and they lost their job, got sued, some of them got incarcerated, the whole thing. So how that was allowed to happen, maybe there's some justice coming to that guy too. But that was not an insurgency. And I hope to God that as soon as Trump comes into the office next week, he's like, hey, these people are out, they're free, and hopefully they got a suit against the government for wrongful imprisonment.
Well, a lot of those people have been in prison for years. I mean, that's not due process. I mean, so again,
No.
If you're watching this video, whomever you are, and you think those people should be in jail, okay, present your argument. But part of your argument should be following due process. We have a set of, and that is, so that right there taints it. And I hate to say it, P. Rick, I think we as Americans are about to pay a shit ton of tax dollars to a bunch of people who've been falsely imprisoned for a very long time.
I'd rather give it to them and their families than the Taliban, though.
Yeah, well, no, yeah, well, or another couple $1 billion to Ukraine. I agree.
Right.
Yeah. Clint, what do you think? Can we overcome it? Is it possible? Can we hold these people accountable, or is that even where we should be focusing our efforts?
Well, I'm going to be a little ignorant here because I don't really know the side of the house, the three-letter agency side of the house. I didn't really work there.
God bless you.
In the military's infinite wisdom, you as a leader don't have to talk to more than 3 to 4 people under you that are your direct subordinates. So, I mean, if you're this guy, you're Sergeant Major so-and-so, then you call in your 4-3 first sergeants. This is what I need to get done. I don't need to know, the tasks, the subtasks. You know what to do. Go do this. And if it's working properly, how they clean this up is, each leader, is going to get cleaned up by their supervisor. I'm asking you to bring me back and show me how your department's working right. You come back, do your brief back with them and say, hey, okay, I got to get rid of these people. I'm having a problem with this. I mean, again, the example of leadership starts from the top and it cascades down. So, I mean, if we've got somebody good in charge, that's their integrity is not compromised and, their mental state, the whole machine starts to not work right. So I think that yes, there's a high probability once we get some competent leaders in there, they're going to expect, some results, and they're going to know their job. and question these subordinates, direct subordinates, and say, how are we fixing this? And they're going to go around the table, and they're going to start cleaning house. I mean, I have high hopes after watching these confirmation hearings that we got some really good people. I mean, the things that they're saying, if we'll see, we're going to find out quick, but I have high hopes for it.
Yeah. Okay. So for both of you guys, and then then I'll bring us back over and maybe to the tactical side. So how do we do that? How can we purge or clean house? How can we purge this body, which is our 50 states, right? E pluribus unum, right? How do we purge this body of this cancer, this disease, this rot, which is the unelected bureaucracy? I mean, look, there is no more tinfoil hat. Even like the mainstream media was trying to do that before the, bringing us into the election, talking about, oh, there's no deep state, but if there is, it's probably a good thing, so how do we get rid of that? How do we get rid of that deep state rot that has infested, the body politic of our country, through the unelected bureaucrats? How do we do that, guys?
Accountability, leadership.
Yep. Well, so leadership, and here's the thing. If I could impress anything on the new folks coming in the administration, and let's face it, you are taking over, an agency, an organization that you've never been exposed to. The best thing that these folks can do as soon as they get into office is you're going to be met with this middle to upper level management that's going to brief you on all the issues and all the shortcomings, but also all the great successes of this organization. Those are the ones that the problem come from. So if I am someone who steps into that role, whether it's the DOD, DHS, FBI, wherever, I'm going to do my utmost. One of my first moves is going to go down to talk to like troop level and find out, hey, how are you guys set up to succeed in what you're doing? Do you have what you need? Do you, where are the problems? Who are some of the key issues? And if they start hearing recurring names that are the issue in these equations that are stopping mission success, those are the people you got to cut immediately. And
I love what you just said right there. And sorry to interrupt you, but I think we need to bring that back. And because Clint, I think I saw you nodding to, whatever you want to call it, the commander's time or the open door policy. I think you nailed it. That, and whether it, to Clint's analogy, whether it's the command sergeant major himself or, some of his first sergeants, but at a level, at a high level, in a trustworthy level, that somebody from that little cadre has to go down and have that hey, at town hall, commander's time, I'm going to interview. Go ahead, Clint.
Sensing session.
Yeah. Yep.
Say it again.
Sensing session. To sit down, have everybody sit down and say, I want to ask some questions and open it up, just like we're sitting here all talking, get everybody in a room where it's, bring down the, open it up, let everybody talk if they've got something to say. And then, hopefully you're getting straight answers on stuff like Patrick said, and it's got to come from people. And let me caveat one thing. I'll lateral this ball off. The one thing that I've learned at this point at 55, still got a lot to learn. There's physical courage and there's moral courage.
Yeah.
And man, I'll take moral courage every day over physical courage, because a big halfwit has got physical courage, but do you have the courage to stand up with your conviction? Because people have been suppressed at this point, and if you come out, they'll destroy you. So I mean, it's going to be hard at this point for people to say, yeah, okay, here's the problems. If we're in an open forum, I'm going to tell you now. Don't come back on me. And the dog has been beat for a while. So it's going to be hard to get that out of people. And Patrick's exactly right. You're going to have that middle, those were the people that were in charge while the boss was away. And I'd love to ask Patrick this. I heard that Mayorkas, whenever he would show up there at the headquarters, it was like the royalty walking in, the whole atmosphere changed until he was out of the building again. you know.
Yeah, I was never around him at headquarters or anything like that, but in the field, oh yeah, I mean it's like remember the royal family showing up, and it's like, hey, this guy puts his pants on just like anyone else, and he's actually supposed to be providing leadership. So I'm not going to go out of my way. A fun story though is he ended up going down to I want to say he went to El Paso, but he also went to I think Rio Grande Valley down in Texas when at the height of the migrant crisis, and was given this speech. Well, all the Border Patrol agents turned their back on him, and their supervisor, who's like a GS-15 or maybe an SES level guy, starts chewing them out. How dare you? This, that, and the other, and they didn't budge. They all did it in unison, like, hey, it's our silent fuck you to somebody who's like basically gutting us and disrespecting us. So that's fantastic.
And especially if this is the same time frame, P-Rick. That was, I think, the quote unquote whipping situation.
It was after that. Yeah, it was a few months after that. Yeah, they were going down there to try to clean up and say, "Oh, look, we support you," but yeah, you're not supporting. Where it counts. You can say, "Hey, I'm behind you guys," but yeah, with a knife maybe. On that note though, of like actually getting down to the field level, and when these engagements happen, it's important that those middle leaders aren't present. And they're ordered, hey, don't come around here. This is for us to meet with ground level troops, so that they don't feel like, okay, if I say anything wrong, because you know how that dynamic works. People will be afraid to say something, and afraid to dime out the leader. And it's just like any other group dynamics. You watch the first couple of the people that have the cojones to stand up and say something, and that encourages others to say, well, yeah, this happened to me, or that happened to me, or we don't have this, we don't have that, and then that's where you get like the true feedback. Or, it could be the opposite. It could be like, hey, our supervisors are really great, but they're hamstrung from above, so you can start to like troubleshoot, hey, who are the problem people that we need to look at getting rid of and replacing, or promoting people up into those positions that are performers and care about their people and are mission focused.
Hey, I want this to come over to Clint because that's a good point. And again, just, your guys' military experience. I'm just going to say this kind of going to what Patrick and Clint brought it up. I guess I didn't know I did this, but so I was only a company commander once, but the very first time I took over my command, to kind of what P-Rick's going at, I met with all my junior enlisted. So my E4s and below, right? And E4s, if you were in the military, there's an E4 mafia in the military. So, sometimes you almost want to segregate those little bastards because there's some scheming, dudes as well. But talk to them. And then I was talking to my junior NCOs, my E5s, my E6s, like, my team leaders and my squad leaders. And then the platoon sergeants, the PLs, completely separate, and to Patrick's point, by the end of it, you're kind of moving from the, where it matters, the men, because that's what we're here for. We're here to we got a mission, but you guys still, you don't fuck your guys over. And hearing what they're saying, and then hearing what the NCOs, okay, they're saying a slightly different story. And then senior leadership is saying this, and then now you're like, oh, I got it. I got 2 squad leaders who really suck, and I got a handful of privates who are a pain in the ass too, or whatever, but that's what you kind of do, right? I don't know if I'm kind of like saying this correctly, but that's part of the goal. It gives you then the upper management, leadership, whatever you want to call it, a pretty good snapshot without having to spend a year to 2 years there, right? So is that kind of making sense, guys? Is that what you're kind of saying we should try to implement? Yeah,
absolutely. And going back to the agency stuff, one of the shortcomings was, they would, at least on my side of the house, would throw people in charge of little sections that they had no background in. And of course, they talk to the middle management and, hey, here's what we want. And basically the middle management becomes like the puppet master for, what they want that person to do. And there was never any engagement with the folks on the ground because either they were gone or they didn't have the force of leadership to say, hey, we'll go reach out to those people and find out what's what. And that was a recipe for disaster on numerous occasions.
And then just to throw this over to you, Clint, but to add to what P-Rick just said, and if that middle management is the bureaucrat, the one that stays there forever, and the upper management is the lieutenant or the captain who's only there for a year or two and then moves on, just like the political, figure, oh, he's only here for 4 years. That middle management that Patrick's talking about can be incredibly damaging. Like there's been times where I've talked to, people at more senior leaders and they didn't even know what was going on at what middle management was doing below them. Middle management was like getting the message, oh, okay, we got to do this. and then was turned around and doing a completely different thing. And I just realized a great example of this during the first Trump presidency. That special envoy he had in the Middle East, I can't remember what the guy's, he wasn't a military guy, in Syria, lying to Trump about the troop figures. He's like, oh, I'm not going to, it's the commander asking me troop figures. I'm going to intentionally lie to the commander in chief about troop figures because this is what me and my middle management people want to have happen in this region, this AOR, this area of operations. Clint, can you add to that, or are we just talking, smack here?
That kind of took me in a couple different ways. And we talked about this before. When you come in and you right seed ride, wherever your leadership is, there ain't going to be a lot of that on this administration because they're not helping at all. They don't want to help, so those people are going to have to come in and not segregate. I like the word,
separate,
isolate, and so they're going to have to come in and get those, all you upper management guys, get out of here. I want to talk to them. Let's isolate this. I want to hear what they've got to say. Now you guys go back to work, go do what you're going to do. I want to talk to the middle guys. And what you're doing is creating a check and a balance where everybody's going, I wonder what they said. I wonder what they said, and then all of a sudden everybody starts getting on their P's and Q's because they don't know what was said in the other group. You walk around acting like a dick all the time and everybody's like, that's the worst guy in the company or the unit to work for. And it all comes out, the leader, commander, whatever it may be, section leader, they're going to be well informed by isolating those tiers and hearing what everybody's got to say. I think that's a great way. I think Patrick started leading into that. I think isolating that. I've been sitting right in the middle of sensing sessions and real bad commands where there was a bad command climate and it was just like, whoo, boy, once it started coming out, it was an avalanche,
So I'd like that because that's also, if anyone's into psychology, that's prisoner dilemma. And I think that's what, when I did what I did, it was a little bit more prisoner dilemma, but you just nailed it, Clinton. That's what I was smiling. The other group is going, what the hell are this? What's the other group saying? And you don't know what the other group said. So now that compels people, to like, okay, I'm going to start saying some things that I might, because I don't know what they said. So, and it really, the next thing you know, you've got people ratting each other out or ratting themselves out or X, Y, and Z. Now,
or you're finding the people
on this for both of you. Because in full disclosure, Clint and I have talked about this a couple times before. I don't agree with every pick that Trump has made for his cabinet positions, but I wonder if there's a little prisoner dilemma or that same type of strategy going on. But I mean, this is slightly different, but it's like, I know what you did. You don't know how I know it. You're going to get on board and work, and work for me, or I'm going to expose it and you're never going to work in politics again, type of thing. Not quite the same thing. That almost sounds a little bit like blackmail, but it really isn't. But it's a technique, right? Okay, what you did was, it could be forgiven, because it's politics and, but I know it and I know it and I've got the dirt on you. So you're going to play ball this time around because the moment I sense you're like sneaking around in the shadows, I'm going to ruin your career. You're going to be the laughing stock and maybe I'll expose some stuff on you. So that's where it kind of would maybe be a little blackmail. But what do you guys think of that? Is that something they're going to be able to pull off, or is that what a technique they're using right now? In your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a technique they're using, but it does kind of ring true with some of the folks, especially during the first administration.
Just imagine, like, why is Zuckerberg coming over and kissing the ring all of a sudden?
Let's talk about Zuckerberg and Tulsi Gabbard for a second, right? So
boy, I had Zuckerberg on my list.
Oh yeah, well, let's talk about him for a second. So what's interesting about him is, he kowtowed to the Biden administration with all the monitoring of social media and blocking people and saying, Mark, I know you might have been on the receiving end of this, and other people that I know that have like pro-military, pro-2A podcast or things like that got blocked and shadow banned and all this BS, right? What's interesting about this, and I heard this on Joe Rogan. So over the past couple of years, Zuckerberg, if you remember him, he's kind of like this scrawny, like, hey, I'm this Stanford nerdy guy. over the past couple of years, he started to transform a little bit. So he hired a personal trainer, starts doing all this training. He talked to Joe Rogan and some people. He started getting into jiu-jitsu. He's very active now. And now all of a sudden, he's very transformed. I saw him on the TV the other day giving an interview, and he had a short sleeve shirt on. I'm not going to say he's jacked, but he definitely looks a little bit better than he used to. I think that there's a lot that goes into, like, our type of life. Like when you start to get the testosterone flow going, you look at things differently in the world. Tulsi Gabbard, I know you said she's, and I remember this, having some or not really anti, but like questionable, type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Last year, she competed in the tactical games, which is a shooting competition mixed with like, physical fitness type stuff. So, and she's a medical officer by trade, right? So, that's interesting in and of itself. But nonetheless, like, you start getting into like this type of stuff, you start to see things differently. And I think that's where the conservative movement has, a lot of people like us and just like good Americans around the country who work hard and that's where I think where the phrase red-blooded Americans comes from. You start to like live like that a little bit. It becomes like a great way to, live your life, as opposed to sitting back and, being depressed and, this is messed up and that's messed up. And hey, why do you have these agency and military people on here? And why are they all white? This type of crap. Right. So, would you rather live your life? Would you rather be open to everybody else and have some blood flow going and enjoy your life? Or would you rather just bitch and complain about everything? And I think that's an interesting change in him. And I'm sure some of it's political too, because he's a smart guy. He's like, hey, I better get on board so that they don't attack my platform or come after us or whatever the case is from a business standpoint. But there is an interesting dynamic with that.
Well, I didn't think about it from that perspective. And I know he has, and I'm sorry if I was a little too far away from the mic, but I know he has actually been pursuing some of the, kind of MMA, kind of arts. And matter of fact, I think, and Elon has a background like that too. And there was that time like 2 years ago, there was a chance those guys were going to actually spar or have a match. But so maybe you're right there, Patrick. I mean, that is the truth. One of the greatest moments, when I first started Centerline Systems, I was a training company, some of the greatest moments are when you see somebody who has this totally unjustified image or thought about, personal defense, whether it's armed or unarmed, or weapons, platforms in general. And then now they're suddenly behind an AR or they're starting to run, a Glock or something like that. And and this has been proven time and time again, like some local media, news outlets talking some shit. They get, some gun range suckers them into like, well, come on in and we'll just take you through the range. And at the end of that segment, the reporter's like grinning from ear to ear and like, I'm buying 4 of these things,
right.
That kind of stuff. So maybe you're right on that. But Clint, what do you think or Patrick, I don't know if you got a rebuttal, but like maybe.
Yeah, I think, think about this, like, us, being older guys and coming from the military and not only going through ourselves, but like basically, raising and mentoring, young, men and women that came up. Like, it's that empowerment. How do you take somebody with zero background? You introduce them to the physical fitness aspect. Hey, that you can do these things, and it is empowerment. You show them how to do, whether it's jujitsu, whether it's shooting, whether, you name it, right? Then they feel like, hey, wow, I'm actually capable. And you just obviously look at the world through a different lens that way.
You just made me think of that's why they've been attacking physical fitness over the last couple of years. And that also
how stupid is that?
That it just explains, when I was doing, right before I had, this other surgery, but last year, just coming off of my hip surgery, and I'm out there with the new rucksack, which looks really badass in Nemesis camo for Clint over there. But I was doing some of those little videos walking with it, and there would be people like who would give a thumbs down on a video talking about you're doing a charity auction or you're just out there exercising. So again, Patrick, to your point, that's part of it. It's like evil knows that, maybe that is a part of it. Hey, too much testosterone, too much independence, too much physical fitness, self-defense, self-reliance. Yeah, we can't have that. So, and there are people out there who don't like that. They really don't. They that's a bad thing. I don't know. So I hope Zuckerberg is seeing the light, and same with Tulsi and the others. But I'm not gonna hold my breath, is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. All you can do is hope, right? So.
All right, Clint. I know you've got. Yeah, you can. I can see.
I'm taking notes, man.
All right.
So many little thoughts are going through there. I'll tell you.
The floor is yours, sir.
There was a term that was kind of coined a little while back: apology tour. Oh, they're on an apology tour. This is the third side of the coin. Clint's opinion. I think Zuckerberg's on one. It's a little bit of self-preservation. Yeah. He better change. He better change something, because he's done something deeply against the values of this country.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in a little bit of a self-preservation mode, and I call that an apology tour. He goes and hits all the trifecta of everything he needs to go to. And what Patrick just said, I've been kind of abstaining. I'm kind of like, he's already questionable. He's already ruined his credibility. So I haven't really sat down and watched a Joe Rogan episode. I should probably listen to it and see what he's saying, because it's like, I don't want to hear it. You already went way down the road on this by censoring everybody. I'm not a big, I don't really like social media that much. But through my business, I have to, talk to a lot of people that way. But when they're suppressing anybody that has those values, character, the industry we're working in, I really don't like it. So it was very, like I said, that's what I see him doing right now, is it's kind of an apology tour. He goes, hits Rogan, and, goes to sees Trump, and, we're going to change it. Now it's not going to be, fact checkers. It's going to be, whatever they call that other thing, suggestions. I can't remember what he called it.
Community notes.
Community notes. Thank you. And so I don't know. I guess I answered it. That's kind of what I think about the thing with and Patrick is right. You start living a little more healthy. You're probably gonna the chemicals in your body. You're gonna think a little differently. Tulsi Gabbard. I personally have some respect for her. I've kind of chatted back and forth with her a little bit on Instagram. And there's a gentleman named Tim Burke, used to be a CAG guy, that started the tactical games. So I was very involved in the tactical games at the beginning. So I know Tim very, very well, and it's sold off to a new gentleman now that owns it. And but Tulsi not only did the tactical games, she's also been going to Fort Bragg up there on Range 37, and she's been participating in the Special Forces Charitable Trust 3-gun type shoot that they have up there, where they're paired up with an SF guy. And Tulsi Gabbard, she's not sure what I know she was a medic for a while, and then she was a MP, I think. And then, but she's served with SOF. She's in a civil affairs. She's commanding a battalion right now. So, she was a Democrat, but she saw the light, and she's really come a long way from. And that's what I really like about this administration that Trump's putting together is, my God, RFK coming in to make people healthy again. I want to look at a label and not see 30 ingredients in something that should be sugar, milk, and eggs. I'm really happy that they're going to get somebody in there and start looking at this food we're eating, when you can go over here to Aldi's and get the stuff they're selling in Europe that's 4 or 5 ingredients.
Yeah.
We need that. And I love seeing RFK come together. So you're seeing a very diverse, administration with Gabbard, with, RFK, Elon, another Democrat, switching over, because, the cooler heads are starting to prevail. So, I mean, those kind of things, I guess I kind of wandered, but I know we talked about Tulsi Gabbard before, but I'm kind of a fan. She's friends with some people that I know, so I was able to reach out to her and just chat a little bit. And her going and doing, and even getting a sidearm and a carbine and running around shooting the tactical game says a lot. Now you start seeing the value of, not only the 2A community, but you start getting to meet those people and get in their heads and see what it's all about.
So before we come over to you, Pat P. Rick, look, my big thing with Tulsi Gabbard is the issues we're kind of talking about right now. And it's like, I don't think you can be a politician and have any, like, why are you running for office if you don't believe in our Constitution? Like,
Yeah.
to me, that's kind of, and you guys are both alluding to that, it's hard to, like on Zuckerberg. Yeah, it's going to be really hard to, but to the point both of you are also making is people do change, and exposure to sunlight, the best disinfectant, the truth,
Yeah.
right? The truth and exercise, like, I know this is going to sound weird, but, you just start thinking like, when, like, so, when you're like injured or lethargic or whatever, it affects your brain and your body function. But when you're like, out there and you're in good shape and you're being, energetic, whatever it is, it's a different mental state. I'm sure there's a smart person to know. I'm sure it's not, dopamine and, endorphins or whatever, but something is different in you. So yeah, is it possible that Zuckerberg is coming around, to the, the light? Is it the same with Gabbard, like you were just saying, Clint? My only thing right there is it's like, if I ever had the chance, that would be the only thing I'd ask her. I'm like, you need to talk to me about the Second Amendment and the Constitution. And if she provided a good answer, I'd be like, okay, roger that. I got your 6. I'm on your team. That's only my issue. Right. So,
yeah.
Well, hang on, just real quick. My last thing is because there's a lot of people in, sheriff's departments or the military, whatever, who don't think anyone else should carry a handgun. So that, just being in the military doesn't mean shit, or, I'm a sheriff. Like, there's a lot of those people who don't think you and I should have our constitutional rights. So that in and of itself isn't enough for me. Just that's the only thing I have against her. Right. And Zuckerberg, I think he's a fucking robot or a lizard person. So, or what does Hecklefish say over on the Y-Files? Lizard people or whatever. So, all right, P-Rick, sorry.
On Zuckerberg, look, whatever his mode is right now, I want to see complete transparency on the depth that the White House bureau or whoever, whatever government entities were driving the social media, big social media to monitor speech and crap like that. DHS at one time, you guys might remember this. I think this was like 2 years ago. They hired on this lady to be the chief of misinformation. And she was like famous for making her own little videos, dancing and singing. Like, luckily that didn't last long, but that was like the public facing piece. Behind the scenes, obviously they're working with, Zuckerberg and everybody else on social media to control people's speech. I mean, that's a threat to liberty. We don't, maybe our age, we don't sit on, social media very often. And, I every now and then scan it. It's mostly for entertainment purposes if I'm searching for a product or researching something. But there's, generations below us that, hey, that's how they get their news. That's how they communicate. And when you start clamping down on that, like, what have you done to society? So that's a massive problem. So transparency from him, I think, is his best, like move that he can use with the new administration and the public in general. So
sorry to interrupt, but for both you guys, because this is actually kind of maybe a good segue into the more, direct action tactical side, because these are tactics. Like, so everything we just talked about in the last 5 minutes, as we're just kind of talking here, like, are these yet are these things not the real threats or the reasons to our freedom, to our way of life, to a flourishing or prosperous society, to your individual liberty, and therefore any administration that's coming in that's saying we're going to put an end to this kind of these shenanigans, that those other people who've been instigate this, whether it's back to the middle management question or even League of Shadows behind the scenes, or just the straight up evil Dan Crenshaw, Nancy Pelosi types. So boys, don't you think that these people are going to react in a defensive, some of them might just like do something stupid because they're so worried of what could happen to them. I mean, or do you think that's even part of the threat? I mean, what we're talking about, this has been going on. This is real.
I got one thought I want to throw out there for both of you to jump on this one, and it just hit me. We could spend. I mean, I know we can. The country can chew bubble gum and walk. I got it. We could do multiple things. We could be immersed while we're trying to dig this country out of the debt that it is in. you
Yes,
know,
sir.
to the World Economic Forum's plans, all these things that are going on. We could literally, there are so many crimes, so much conspiracy that we could get in. When Patrick just said that, I would like to know the transparency with Facebook, that the White House went to him and said, this is what we want you to do. We could literally deluged with the corruption and the investigations instead of focusing on moving the country forward. And that's a bad thing. That's a bad place to be in right now, because we have all this stuff to deal with, this baggage. But this country has to move forward very, very quickly, because we are losing ground to our adversaries. My God, I mean, there's so much stuff to be done to get things jump started back in the right direction, but we could be immersed in the drama.
Yeah.
But that drama is, to P-Rick, but that drama, just real quickly, Clint, I hear what you're saying, and and I was kind of like, okay, that makes sense. But I also think on the other hand, like all that drama you're referencing, that's a cancer. And if we don't recognize it, then it doesn't matter if we win this next fight, because we're going to collapse from the inside of our own rot.
And that's all I was saying, Mark, was it's kind of a, we're in the middle, we're in the grind. The country's got to function. It's got to move. We got to start making money to get our children, our children's children out of debt, and not be in servitude to China. We got to move that forward. I hope we can chew that much bubble gum and still walk. I guess that's my point.
Okay. Okay. But there it is. I like that. We got to chew some serious bubble gum, and because boys and girls, we've said this in a few episodes, previously, and I'm glad Clint brought it back up. No one talks about it. We are so effed on the financial side, our inflation, the national debt, man, it doesn't matter if China invades Taiwan or whatever, like, we're about to collapse. And then I'll look at the Palisades fires, and then no one's even talking about, Hurricane Helene anymore. But all right, P-Rick, I know you wanted to maybe jump in on that before I take us off.
A couple things I want to hit on Tulsi Gabbard for a second. So her coming in, as the new, DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, for listeners that don't know, the Office of Director of National Intelligence is put together to make sure that all agencies within the intel community actually work and collaborate and share information. I can tell you firsthand, over the past 4 years, we've fallen back into this like siloed thing where, well, this is the FBI and all that. We don't really want to talk to DOD. And it's like, hey, this isn't an option. That's why that was put together. But you had a DNI that was weak and didn't enforce that stuff. And agencies weren't even doing their core mission. So we need to get back on track with that. And I hope that she can do that. Along with that, and I'll chime in on what Gene put up there a second ago. I don't know if you guys saw that, but he was saying that they had a misinformation unit within their government. Yeah, part of MI5. Well, when you have these left-leaning leadership groups within your government. You guys, I don't know if our listeners are familiar with Five Eyes, but Five Eyes is an international partnership between the United States, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. So we pretty much had a bunch of left-leaning, government heads, in those 5 countries. Well, one of the problems with that, and this is, where a weak DNI in the United States can come into play. Maybe the CIA and the NSA cannot spy on U.S. citizens, and they know that they'll get called out for it. But if they've got a partnership with Canada and say, hey, you know what? If you guys spy on our citizens, it's not us doing it, but then we can share the information.
Well, why don't you just use the real world example? Well, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just start that over, but use the real world example. That's what we did with the Brits. So just use the real world example. We use the Brits to spy on American citizens.
Yeah. I mean, and but here's to what end does that go? You saw what the Australians did with their citizenry during COVID. I mean, they were locking people up, and they had like a, reporting on your neighbors, and, oh, hey, this guy's outside without a mask, and the police swarm like in SWAT type fashion to take somebody into custody and lock them up in a solitary room. Like, what is that? So that's the fear when you start getting into these left-leaning governments. I mean, let's be honest, the left-leaning governments have a lot akin to communism. I mean, you even had Trudeau come out and say, "Oh, I really admire Xi Jinping and the way that the CCP is run."
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me? Those people are oppressed. What about the Uyghurs who are, to call them like political prisoners? They're being oppressed and murdered. Like,
He was like, he doesn't have to ask anybody anything. They just do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
What is that? So that's to me, like, I am rejoicing in the fact that we are getting back to some common sense in leadership and government. And will there be pockets of people that resist at everything just because they're going to they're going to die on that hill? Well, this is the way to go. AOC, the groups like that, or people like her and the squad, they'll do that. They're going to do that anyway. And until their constituency wakes the fuck up and says, hey, we need to vote these people out and get somebody in who actually cares about us, you're gonna see that. But they're now the minority. So, I don't know. I'm just glad we are where we are, because if Trump hadn't won, we'd be having very different conversations.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's amazing when you see the fires out there in California. You got North Carolina people that and we've spoke about this before. I've been on these emergency camps, and FEMA's up there giving $750 checks, and then Biden goes out there to California, says we're going to pay all debt so now we're all on the hook to pay for a bunch of rich people out in the Palisades, to rebuild their mansions 100%. And it's like, whoa, boy, we know who those people vote for. But I'm telling you, I don't think at this point, I think they by not filling up them reservoirs, by, not cleaning up the forests, and man, Trump called it. Hey, you got to clean these things up or you're going to have a major problem. Then all the insurance agencies says they've built a tender box out there and they ain't got no water. And their think tank is going, we better start dropping these people or we're going to be out of business paying for all their mansions when it burns up. So they dumped all their insurance, and now everybody's looking around, doing this. And you got all the DEI people out there. Now they're starting to, the rats are starting to jump the ship. They're like, what me?
Yep. That's
but I'm just real quickly on that point, and that's one of the saddest things to me is, and I used to like the guy as a comedian. I really, I think his last one wasn't very good anyway. But Bill Burr, I mean, way back in the day, old Bill Burr was funny as hell. But what he just kind of said about the fires and the people, I mean, he doesn't even realize he contradicts himself like 4 different times. First he's talking about homeless people, but it wasn't a homeless, I'm like, dude, you just said homeless people are outside making fires to stay warm. Like, don't you know how fucking forest fires start? By people making fires. But to your point right there, Clint, what really bothers me is to see people, and then and then last thing, Bill Burr even made a joke about, that guy who assassinated that insurance, or wasn't it like, yeah, exactly. So he made it go like, what did you think was going to happen type of thing. Like, are you just an idiot? Like you just did it perfectly, Clint. Dude, insurance companies, there's no business anywhere in the world that's in business to lose money and go out of business. Like, and that if I was a business and I'm doing insurance, and like, Clint just said, and I'm looking at the state that's just turning a blind eye and pissing in the wind, when it comes to firefighting, and like, oh, I can't afford to do this because something evil and bad's going to happen. And then sure as shit it did. Like, and everybody's blaming the insurance companies. Like, what do you think insurance companies are, like leprechauns, with like rainbows of pots of gold? Like, no, dude, like that's how ignorant and stupid are you? And why do people fall for that shit? That's, well, so that I guess is the kind of thing where I kind of wanted to go. How do people fall for that type of nonsense? That again, that psyop, that propaganda, that it's the evil insurance companies who are responsible.
Right.
What? Because the governance in your state created this environment, and we saw it coming, and we got the hell out of there, so we didn't lose our jobs or our businesses. Yeah, we're the ones responsible for this, right? Not your governor, your mayor, or your DEI fire chief. And my God, how embarrassing, that assistant basically saying that if you're a man and you're in a fire, that's on you. Like, you got yourself, like, just fucking quit right now. Just quit. Just fucking quit. So So now back to that, guys.
Hey,
Okay,
can I interject something real quick?
Go ahead. But don't
What
let
are
me
you guys-
lose. Hang on. But before interject, but let me remind me to come back to that, because that's going to be the next question, because that's
No,
also
I
a little
want
bit
you to
on
stay on your topic. I just want to ask a clarifying question. What's everybody's pronouns here?
Tonight, my pronoun is Cabernet. So that's my pronoun
Nice.
tonight.
Yeah.
That's my pronoun tonight.
Yeah.
All right. So, okay. But so, boys, then on that though, because this is the mentality, right? This is how like crazy people in our country have been allowed to think. No one's questioned them, or they've been cajoled and forced into it. So if, and I think this was, and it's that kind of left, it's a left-leaning publication, Washington. I think it was this in the Washington Post. They did a survey, and approximately 50% of government employees that took part in the survey are saying that they are willingly going to do whatever they can in their position to resist the new incoming administration. They're just right there. That's alone. That's sedition at a minimum, if not treason, and if not a whole bunch of other federal crimes. So, guys, that is what we have created. Again, so. And maybe that was part of my Obama thing too. This has been going on for years. There hasn't been a lot of time to, flush out the stables and to debride the wound. If you know what I'm talking about. Like, so guys, how are we going to overcome that? Because that is also, I think, was part of the strategy. Have all these people in there. How are we going to go if 50% of, and this is a shitty kind of poll, it's by a newspaper. So, who knows, but like, if that's even remotely true, the biggest problem is we don't know what organizations or agencies those people are working for. But if that's, if they surveyed, and they're trying to say they have a sample across all of the government, and, approximately 50% of people are saying they're going to resist the new administration. That's only like one step away from some weird type of civil war, some real issues. How do we resolve that, guys?
Mark, did you say 60, 60?
50.
Oh, 50. So like half. So
approximately.
My response to that would be that I number one, I think that's a little bit of psyop suggestive reporting, trying to like spur people to stand up against this evil administration. So the Washington Post can go pound sand.
And I agree with you. And I kind of just said that at the end. I mean, it could just be like the bullshit reporting, just like that one person was saying that Kamala was up by 15 points. That kind of shit.
Yeah, exactly. It's just psyop and propaganda. Well, here's the other thing with going into our earlier talk about having senior leaders getting down to like what we would refer to as troop level in the military, right? I would also install very robust OPR, Office of Personnel Responsibility, officers and OIG people in there, so that when you get these complaints like, oh, my supervisor's not doing this and that and the other, or they've ordered me to do something that's contrary to our core mission based on some political crap that goes against the administration or the leadership in your agency, that stuff gets identified and rooted out and dealt with quick.
Clint, I want to bring it back to you. But just on that last point, Patrick just said, I'm going to tell a little point of personal privilege, tell a story of my very first year in the agency. Well, my first year, it's not when you initially get hired. I mean, if you're going to be an operations officer, you got to make it through. You're not really hired until you make it through all the training and stuff. But so now it's my first year, so to speak. And I'm getting a brief. I'm about to go downrange, and there was another individual, one of my classmates, and he was a former Ranger. There wasn't very many prior service guys in there, for the record, whatever, but there were a bunch of us. And so anyway, and we were classmates, and we're in this briefing, so we're sitting next to each other. And this would have been like a GS-15 or an SIS. And real quickly, Patrick, just so people don't have to hear my voice, you want to just let everybody know, like, what that means in the agency, what's like, or give it like what you think the military equivalent is real quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're talking like the highest level of GS pay scale, and anyone can look this up online, is a 15, right? So those positions are usually very competitive to get to, and there's not that many of them. You're supposed to bring a ton of experience and leadership to the table in order to get that. that doesn't always happen, shockingly enough. And then there's the what the rest of the government calls SES, Senior Executive Series. So those are people that are hired on for like agency leadership positions and things like that. So they don't have the same levels of protection. So those are the people that can be removed almost like at will if they're not performing or whatever the case is. And I would say that they're at like the general officer level on the military side. And a GS-15 would probably be like a full bird colonel, maybe even a 1-star, depending on what type of agency you're working with, right? Yep. So that's where we're at. Yeah. But yeah, and yeah, so I think I fall in like, I don't know, major equivalency or some crap like that. So we'll see.
Yeah. So at the time, I'm I think I'm a GS-11. So I'm like, in the agency, you're the operations world, you're a private, like you haven't even, okay, great. You passed the farm, Clint knows what we're talking about, but you haven't actually done any combat drops or, you haven't done any of this. So like, no one gives a shit. Matter of fact, there it is. That's one of the best from the second Aliens. How many drops is this, Lieutenant? 32. How many combat drops? 4, including this one, and everybody's like, oh man, but so I'm in this briefing as, brand new buck private GS, operations officer, GS-11 type of dude. And this guy was either, and that's why I asked Patrick. Patrick may have even like at some point even like been around this guy or seen him in the hallways or something, because this was a pretty senior dude. I'm pretty sure he was a SIS-1. So like, again, here's a general coming down to talk to the troops. And then this is where I'm going over to Clint and kind of what we're getting at here. And that mother effer said, hey, for you guys who are about to go to this war zone, if you don't like it, you can blame. And he straight up said, you can blame the president. I mean, here's an individual in the chain of, not really in the chain of command, but you get what I'm saying. Bad mouthing the president of the United States. So back to what we're saying, in the agency kind of government world, that guy is kind of mid-management, even though he's like a general officer. There's a lot of people like, there's not a lot, I shouldn't say it that way, but throughout the government writ large, there's a lot of GS-14s and 15s and SES and SIS, type of folks. So yeah. And this guy just came out in front of a group of people who just got hired. And I can't say the number, but wasn't a lot of us, but for the agency, it was a lot of people. And he basically said, if you don't like the mission or what you're about to do, it's the fault of the administration that we serve. So bringing it over to Clint, like that was the very first just I guess to end the story, me and my Ranger buddy looked at each other and we're like, what the fuck did he just say? Like it was like, it would be like a company commander coming out and saying in front of his troops that the battalion commander's a total fucking asshole. And, but we're going to attack this hill. And if this doesn't work, blame him. And maybe, like the implication was there. Clint, yeah. How are we going to defeat that?
Oh man, that's a good question. That's another one that I've been in the middle of multiple times, where you see somebody at a lower level, contradict field grade flagged officers in the military, you got to be very careful when you're in these Department of Defense and of course Department of State, Homeland Security. Well, you got to be careful what you say. Have some measured comments, because you can get yourself in a lot of trouble doing that kind of stuff. And I suppose going back, if they do these sensing sessions and they sit down and talk to all these people, maybe we can get that kind of stuff. Like I said, everybody's mentality, more of a get everybody back to work, get everybody back in the buildings, get things functioning. You're there. You can actually, like Patrick said, your metrics, your work performance can be, looked at and say, you know what, I got to go see the Bobs, because they're going to be cutting some employees, and me and the Bobs.
What do you say you do here again?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is it you do here again?
Yeah, the Bobs. That was fun. Great
personal skills.
Well, people skills. Great pull. Okay. All right. Continue. Sorry, but that was you kind of gave us like there was no way somebody wasn't going to interrupt you on that one right there, though. All right, finish up though. Sorry to interrupt.
No, that was it. I like I said, I get funny enough more like that. They're going to have to come in and good leadership, look at the middle leadership, look at the lower, the workforce, and start working through some of this stuff, because it's got to happen quick. Again, there's a couple of times I've seen, I think it was one of the Trump's lawyers said it the most directly, and I was just like, spike that ball, man, because he was like, a lot of you people need to start lawyering up.
Yeah.
Yeah, no bones about it. There's a lot of people need to start lawyering up.
Yeah.
Well, I like even what they just did with the National Security Council. They just basically told everybody, you just might as well just start packing up your bags. The moment we come in and we're actually officially the new administration, all of you people on the current NSC, you're done. You're out of here, man. We're not fucking around with you guys.
I hope some of it's like a self-correcting land nav course when they say your resignation letter better be on my desk before inauguration's over.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. So again, I guess what I'm ultimately kind of farming for is because that's my personal belief. I just don't know if that's going to happen. And I fear that if it doesn't happen, and that, but here now to John's comment, I just pulled it up, but I agree with this. And I know the three of us have talked about this, and, so have many other people. It isn't going to change overnight with just Trump. This is like a huge, and especially when you get into the financial thing, we really haven't talked about finances tonight. And once I do my little, comment here, I'm going to bring it back over to the tactical side, but the financial mess we're in isn't going to happen in a one Trump administration. So to John's point, this is a long-term game. We have to fight and win this battle, but the war is far from over. There's a lot of heavy lifting. And my biggest thing, what really bothers me, guys, I'll get your comments on this, and then I got a tactical question, but is how many people are like, yay, Trump's in charge. I'm like, you think it's going to just get easy tomorrow? But Patrick, to your point, okay, the morale is improving in a lot of places, almost immediately. Dude, Biden and all those clowns can try to pretend that they just sealed that deal, got the hostages released, but we all know that was Trump. I mean, Netanyahu, even the State Department came out and said, yeah, no, it was Trump's guy, so, all right. But anyway,
I couldn't believe I was witnessing that them bookended with Kamala and freaking
Blinken. Yeah.
Blinken. And it was just like, man, are you really going to try to stand up there and take, you've been at the beach, man. You've been checked out for months since Kamala was anointed. Where have you been up until the point where we got to start commuting sentences on murderers and passing all these little middle of the night things that you want to get done. So you cause Trump, more grief that he's got to untangle,
Yeah. That's
and that's just actually to your point. That's why I just popped it up. I mean, John's kind of making the same comment. Part of that mess that we have to untangle, and what I think we've kind of covered, because it is a threat. There's a threat to Trump. That's what the 2 minutes to midnight, but it's also 2 minutes to midnight to us, because there has been a threat, against our culture, our civilization, our way of life. A conservative is somebody who wants to conserve the Constitution. The Constitution is our document. If you want to change it, there is a process. Go about doing it. But you can't we cannot sustain as a country doing what we've been doing in essence, all the way back to, well, honestly, yeah, see, I don't want to get too political. It really kind of goes back to Clinton and George W, or not George W, but George H. He kind of fucked it up and set the stage, and he was a globalist too. But anyway, putting that aside,
as you start thinking about it, you can go back a president each time you have a thought.
Yeah. It's like, because no one's putting their foot down and trying to stop this nonsense. Now, if Trump is serious, and and look, and he's mean mugging it in that 47 photo for his official portrait. Have you guys seen that? He's trying to emulate his his convict photo. He's mean mugging it. That's going to be the official presidential portrait. Hung in, and the VA better fucking hang that in VA offices this time.
They have to. We got.
Well, no, they have to, but they didn't have it.
Message,
they didn't have it in Duluth Superior. I'm like, you fucking communists. And no one got in trouble. And then that's the thing. There's got to be somebody like, hey, I asked this, the head, why don't we have the photo hung up? Oh, we don't know. No, we just got it delivered yesterday, boss. And it's here. Like, no, I'm not going to do it. Well, okay, then you need to get fired. Like, that's not for you to decide. That,
right.
And so, okay, so that is those type of actions, that type of mindset, that type of resistance, is illegal and it needs to be stopped, and it's a major threat. But let's just kind of take it up as we wrap it up here tonight, giving you guys 10, 15 minutes each. Let's talk about the physical threats here at the end. We started off on the physical threats. I don't want to speak for everybody. Patrick identifies it's real, thinks it's being mitigated. I don't want to speak for Clint either, but I'll just say this for me. Because again, looking, and maybe we'll start it off this way. Like with the technology that we have today, and if you look at the advance in drone technology, especially in warfare over in the Russia-Ukraine conflict, all this drone activity that was taking place on the East Coast that no one wants to talk about. I mean, again, it could have been this, it could have been that. There's a lot of speculation going on, and that going back to the leadership, I think that's badly. That indicates just how poor our leadership has been. Good leadership doesn't with it. Why would you withhold that information? Hey, we think there might be, there was some missing, radioactive material that could be used to, formulate a dirty bomb, and we're scanning for it. Everybody's like, it's the same thing with UFOs. So we can't tell people about UFOs because then everybody will freak out and panic. You don't fucking know that. And most of us already believe like there are UFOs, or if we heard that was missing, plutonium or something like that, well, maybe we would start paying more attention and we could help you, hey, there is a sketchy warehouse, across the street from you. If you guys wanted to check that out. Oh, that's right. We did have sketchy warehouses, and those stories disappeared too. Sketchy warehouses where they were building fucking COVID and other diseases. You remember those stories, boys and girls? So guys, I think the threat is real. I think even if you move it into the Capitol Rotunda, okay, it's a stationary target, less people, you only got so many, points of in and outs, in egress, you only have so many, access points you're going to have to control, but you are also sitting on the X. You're outside, lot of more vantage points, obviously that's got its security issues as well, but you're not really a moving target because you're moving on a known route, but you are still outside and you are still moving, and you do have maybe a lot of mobility. So what do you guys think here? I mean, like, I'm not really, I know it was, they're claiming the weather, but I really think they did it for security reasons. But I'm here to tell you, I'm still really concerned about VBID, and I'm concerned about drones. And a drone really could kind of be a VBID at this point in time. That's really what they become in war. So you guys want to take it, 10, 15 minutes each, what you think, and maybe this is tinfoil hat. Maybe I'm too concerned about it, but I don't have a good feeling about this at all, man. I don't think evil is going to go down or go quietly into the night and say, you got me, lock me up. And if he gets elected, if he gets, sworn in, and if these guys get the chance to start getting their organization going, people are going to go to jail. It's going to be legit. But I'm here to tell you, America, there's a lot of people who have committed crimes in this country. This country, we're founded on great principles and ideas, but there's a lot of politicians. Dan Crenshaw just admitted it himself. He's like, oh, well, how else am I supposed to make money? I can't just live on this, this government salary of $170,000 a year. I've got to use my position on a committee to do insider trading. He just admitted it. There's a lot of people who aren't going to go quietly into the night. All right, guys, that was my last kind of tirade. You guys take it. Wherever you want to go.
Clint, you want to go?
I'll try to keep it short. When we talk about the Capitol Rotunda and them having it inside, I think that brings down. I mean, I'll tell you what, they hit the Capitol with something. We're in a whole new area, that we just went into a whole new area, So I don't think they're going to hit the Capitol Rotunda. Of course, there's threats there. I got it. We've got drones. That kind of has subsided a little bit. We're not hearing about the drones much more. I don't know why. But other than that, I think we're going to get through this. And once, like you said, evil go into the night beaten, I think once we get the new administration in there, I think, the game's going to change really quickly. He's going to be on the phone talking to Putin. The stuff with Ukraine's going to slow way down, if not completely stop, in a very timely manner. You know, China's going to be in check. Their economy is really, really bad. Iran's going to be put back in the box. The money's going to dry back up again. You know, people are going to be in charge. Border's going to get shut down. Holman's going to start rounding some bad guys up and getting them out. Hopefully, all of them, as many as they can get out. You know, I think the game's going to change fairly quickly. As like Mark's saying, I'm, you know, optimistically cautious. We get through the inauguration. Once we're past that, then I think things are going to change quick.
Okay, so just let me throw the question back at, because what you just said maybe helped me better realize how I want to phrase the question. Everything you said, I think, you know, hopefully optimistic. I think that if there's an inauguration, if we have this man as the president, I think the things you just said, we are going to see. Like, you're going to see, it'll be like a breakthrough. Like, you know, Matt, you know, just use your war history. Anytime there's been a real breakthrough that ends the war, we're going to have that. Like, the floodgates are going to open, and the beach ball of liberty, the tree, whatever you want, however you want to say it, it's going to start spreading, and people and dominoes are going to topple, and shit's going to get better. And I think it will usher in a really new era. I really do believe that. I'm just concerned. Evil knows that too, Clint. Right? So evil, like, if evil doesn't stop this in the next couple of days, it's pretty much almost game over, because Trump isn't going to. I mean, look, I guess there is the alternative. Trump comes in and doesn't do a single fucking thing, and it's just, you know, same as the old boss, I guess, you know, but I don't see that happening, not with the band he's putting together. So bringing it back to you, and I don't know if that made it any different. I'm still really concerned about what happens between now and what happens at the inauguration. And that to me that's the, you know, like, so in German military back in World War I, you know, that was like the Schwerpunkt, right? That's the decision point. That is the most crucial moment. And we're in it right now, but it's tomorrow, Sunday, and Monday.
Yeah. I guess to finish up my thought and pitch it to Patrick, again, you know, I think there's some serious divine intervention going on, something, you know, that's unprecedented. This guy has made it through so much. I think we can make it through the weekend. I think he's going to get inaugurated. I think these people are going to all get confirmed, and things are going to take a serious turn at Albuquerque. You know, it's going to change quick.
Not the wrong turn at Albuquerque, but Bugs Bunny. So you don't think there's going to be any shenanigans or anything crazy, you know, leading up to or at the inauguration? You know,
I hope not. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, so let's talk about it for a second. So let's put on the red team hat for a minute, right? So if we had the idea that, hey, you know, we're part of this jihadi cell, or, you know, pick your bad guy flavor, and, you know, a year out from the you know, the election, we decided, hey, just in case Trump gets in, let's start coming up with some plans on how we would you know, take him out, or at least cause, you know, so much terror and havoc that the public is going to be in disarray. All right, now all of a sudden, now you fast forward that to the election. Okay, so now what was that? Almost 2.5 months ago. So we've really hit the ground, if we're the bad guys, in our planning phase of that. You know, trying to get resources, trying to get people in place, trying to get, you know, exact locations, you know, picking our weapon system, the whole bit, right? We get our plan in motion because we're planning for the standard, you know, I guess we'll call, you know, like settings, right? The same thing that we've seen for the past, I don't know how many years. It's been like almost like 30 or 40 years since they did something in the rotunda, right? So you're planning for that event. Now all of a sudden it changes. What does that do in the planning and decision process to that group who spent all this time, money, and effort on, let's say it was a sniper shot. Let's say it was like explosives along the route. Let's say, you know, now all that stuff's gone. Now these guys are probably going into hyperdrive on, oh, shit, we didn't think this was going to happen. So that puts them behind the power curve. I mean, if we're talking about your traditional terrorist organizations and things like that, right? So the only thing that I would say that is any chance, and I'd say that the probability of getting this in there is low, provided like you've got like, you know, Secret Service and all the, you know, like legitimate security elements in place that are checking everybody and everything would be some type of aerosol device, because that would be in an enclosed space that might actually impact your target, right? But I think that's pretty low. On a national scale, not talking about the inauguration, we've got like thousands of people that have crossed, hundreds of thousands of people that have crossed the border. So let's take the standard 10% of that. I'm sorry, millions of people. So let's take 10% of that. Let's even lowball it. Say you got like 1,000, 1,500 like hardcore people that are here to do damage across the country in complex coordinated attacks. That's the concern. And I actually think that some of that is going to happen. I think they've been laying in wait. They want Trump to take the office, and they want to have it happen on his watch because, again, he took out Soleimani. So, how do you stop that? And that comes down to, now you're taking away all the high profile stuff, and you're going into areas where, like, if you start hitting schools and hospitals and things like that, and they do it, simultaneously across the country, that's going to be horrible. So this is where, like, the local, state and locals in leadership and law enforcement, like, really need to be vigilant on this stuff. So, there's that. I want to touch on the DOD, and because that's near and dear to our heart, and some of the changes that I think need to occur there. Number one. Well,
hey, before you go into the changes of that DOD, because I want to bring that, what you just said, back to you and Clint, right? Because again, I'm serious. I like what you just said. I mean, I'm glad you put it into and took us over into the red, the red hat, red shirts, the red cell type of, the opposing forces perspective. And look, boys and girls, no matter how inept or whatever, like, there are people in those organizations actually doing that. I mean, like, on a very serious note. I mean, so thank God there's still like some folks doing that stuff. Doesn't mean anyone above them is going to listen, go back, rewind, and listen to, the other part of our conversation.
Yep.
But, to your guys' point though, or especially Patrick's, but bringing it back for both you guys, we have had stolen military equipment, take place. We have DGI just shut down. And so DGI, like a very large, big name in the drone industry, Chinese owned, they just shut down their internal geofencing, and now they're only going to go with the FAA, how the FAA will govern the airspace, and there's a no-fly zone set up. But that might not mean shit. I mean, that's like, Dan Bongino did a pretty good job of this, I thought, a couple days ago, kind of alluding to that as just, it's a stop sign. I mean, think about that. I mean, no one under the age of 18 can have a gun. If you're a law-abiding citizen, then that applies. If you're a criminal, you don't give a shit. You're like, I'm going to go buy a gun, right? So none of these things are, just like a restraining order does not prevent somebody who's intent on stalking you, raping you, or killing you from doing any of the above. It's just a piece of paper. It isn't going to do shit. So there's a condition. Stolen military equipment's a condition. We just had that story out of Chicago. Now, P-Rick, and I should have warned you about this. I didn't know I was going to bring it up so late, but I don't know if you can talk about that, but and that story has absolutely disappeared. But like a HVAC person, hey, where's Gimli? Gimli's an HVAC person. So an HVAC person found all kinds of contraband, fake IDs, law enforcement uniforms, firefighting, like, I'm here to tell you, there's just something still doesn't smell right. And no one talking about, that guy out in Las Vegas, the Tesla truck, guy. And, and is that true? Is that misinformation? I'm here to tell you, I just think that there's still some trouble of brewing. And
there is.
I just want to throw that out there.
I think the majority of the American people know this. There is bad elements in here that, as Patrick said, can create all kinds of chaos, and those threats are there. We know they're there, but we got to get Tom Holman in there. We've got to get a new administration in there. We've got to start cleaning this out. These governors that are going to try to stop, mayors going to try to stop them, step out of the way, or you're inhibiting that activity of the government to try to get these people, illegals, out of here. So, I think that, again, we got to get to a new administration so we can even start addressing that many threats, that many cells, inactive cells that are sitting around here that have apparently done things in an inauditable way, that now they're sitting there and they've got supplies and they're going to try to put these into effect. And Patrick said it, I agree with him. This is going to go on for a while, and they want to try to they're going to do the same thing that they did in the first administration. They're going to disrupt, and whether that's COVID or lawfare, they're going to keep doing it. So we're going to have to not only try to deal with all this baggage from the Biden corruption, what I think is corruption, we're going to have to move the country forward. And then we've got all these threats here at the same time that we're going to have to mitigate. So it's going to be a full basket.
And, and we all keep downplaying, but, I know, I'm just saying this because I know Clint, we both agree on this because I think, as, small business owners, dude, the financial situation, like if I were to rank all the threats against our country right now, the least of mine is like, the threat of like a nuclear war with Russia or anything. It's the financial collapse of our country. We're in big trouble, boys and girls. I mean, anyway, P. Rick, your thoughts on that right there? Hey, this is the first episode ever where it wasn't Mark, you're muted.
Yeah.
It's Patch. Like I wasn't muted the whole episode. Patrick, you were muted.
I'm that guy now.
Yeah. P. Rick, you're muted.
So the DoD, right? So there's problems galore that need to be fixed within the DoD. Personal experience, and Clint, I don't know what yours was, but there's far too many DoD civilians, whether no matter what branch it is, or just contractors that are doing work that could be done by green suiters, and that it's just you get a guy like that that's making 130, 140 grand a year and doesn't do their job. And, the commander would like to do something, but he can't. And, command teams come in and spend 2 to 3 years. So by the time they might start to address the problem, they're moving on. And then I got other things to deal with when I PCS or, move to another base, and the new incoming, piece comes in and, so-and-so's not that bad. Or it's just this constant game that needs to go. The DEI crap in the military needs to go. I mean, I've personally dealt with, several varieties of DEI that equates to, not being mission ready. That it just like, we need to cut the fat with that. I just forwarded, I don't know if Mark, I don't know if you can play this or not, but story.
I didn't know if you wanted me to do that.
Yeah. Well, I think, let me talk about the Chinese first, and then you can show it for,
all right. Gotcha.
For effect. But, we're also fighting a Cold War with the Chinese. The Chinese government back in 2017 passed this thing called the Military Civil Fusion Law, or the Intelligence Law. And that requires every Chinese national that's traveling abroad for, academic, corporate purpose, tourism, what have you, to collect information that's going to be of value to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, their military. So essentially, they've turned every one of their citizens into, a collector, and that's a concern. So the problem with that is now we've got people that get U.S. citizenship or legal permanent resident status. Well, for their standpoint, their placement and access is pretty good because the U.S. government's a lot less likely to do something with them once they have that status. That causes issues. Now, what I said to
before you go any further,
yep.
And this is a weird one, but just give me a quick moment here. So,
yep.
Look, the guys, who come on the podcast, myself, we speak in jargons. It's, it's what you do, right? You're used to it. But so I just want to say this real quickly in case. Because it sounds like innocuous words, but placement and access, what P. Rick just said, that's a really important part of your intelligence world. You are looking to recruit or maybe kill. I mean, it depends what your mission state is, but people who have placement, in other words, they work at the right places, right? So think of Eric Swalwell, who happens to be on the House Intelligence Select Committee, right? He has placement, by being a senator and then being part of a committee. Then I think the second part. So by being part of that committee, he has access to information you want. So just throwing it out there because you just kind of said placement and access.
No,
and honestly, I think with that's one we've been guilty of. We've said that a bunch, but I don't think a lot of people really know what that means. So
yeah, right. So like, yeah, you're right. So placement is, hey, they work in a place. Access is they have access to information that we're seeking, or in this case, like the Chinese Communist Party is seeking. So Swalwell's a fantastic example. He's a member of the House Intelligence Permanent Select Committee of Intelligence. They are one of the bodies that oversees the CIA, the DIA, and all the elements in the intelligence community, of which there's 18 now. So they get read in on some very, very high level stuff. Well, he had a sexual relationship with a lady who was tied to the Chinese Communist Party. And when this came to light and they were, the FBI found out about it, they were seeking, hey, let's go find her. She got out, she exfilled and she's back in China. But
hey, just like the wife or girlfriend of the Vegas shooter, just somehow was able to get the fuck out of the country. He's never been extradited, and no one wants to talk about it ever again.
Yeah, that's weird, right? So yeah, that's another weird thing with him. We could kind of talk about some agency stuff, but I'll kind of wrap it up with that. Is when we're talking about the Chinese, like we've got what's called non-traditional collectors all over the country. A lot of universities now have a lot of Chinese students there. Well, that's by design, because anything that's government funded, they are going to have students that are available to be in those programs. And the fault lies with two groups. Number one, it's the State Department, who doesn't screen people properly. Number two, it's with the universities who are addicted to the money, because the three of us decide, hey, I want to go get a master's degree or a PhD or whatever, and I'm going to use my GI Bill or whatever to pay for it. Well, that university has to wait for that money to come in, the paperwork and all this other stuff. And the Chinese come in and slap that money down. Here you go. So the universities have grown addicted to that, and they've kind of become, just addicted to it. So the problem is
a breeding ground too.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem is these students aren't coming over for art history or, these like liberal arts degrees. They're coming over for STEM things that have direct relations to the advancement of, military systems, dual use items. I mean, we're talking like, nuclear war. We're talking about, hypersonic missiles. We're talking about submarines. We're talking about the this new fighter that they put together. Well, they didn't research that on their own. This was all stolen. So that's something. And for anybody who gets a hair sideways when I say Chinese, thinking, oh, that's racist. Notice I'm not talking about the Japanese or the Koreans or the Filipinos or anybody else from Asia, because that's not the case. I'm talking about specifically the Chinese government. So,
well, and then see, you're not even talking about the Chinese people. And so I just got to just a little bit of humor, and we'll get back to it, because Patrick is fucking slaying it. And that's another thing, just like the financial side of the future of our company. Our country. If we don't have a serious conversation about what we're doing with the People's Republic of China, the PRC, we're gonna they're gonna eat our lunch. We are digging our own grave. But P-Rick, just to let you know, Clint, you might not know this about me. I mean, I know we've known each other. We've had some good conversations, but P-Rick knows this more than me. I would just want somebody to accuse me of like, oh, you just don't like, Asian people. I'm like, for starters, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, are you trying to say Chinese and Japanese are the same people? Like, I'll introduce you a bunch of Chinese and Japanese who will adamantly, just and vigorously, like, don't ever fucking call me that, or, whatever the case is. And then, personally, like, I've got my own personal preferences, and I just love that culture and everything. So, no, P-Rick's absolutely right. Boys and girls, this is just a harsh reality. Grow the F up. If you don't like it, go sit at the kiddie table. That country's government, not the necessarily people, that country's government is, look, dude, did you not hear what he's saying? They are extorting. They are, actually, what's the real word, guys? I mean, like it's not even just extortion. It's blackmail, but it's worse. It's like, okay, great. You live in America, but your favorite aunt still lives over here in China. If you don't start telling me about your job at Exxon, I'm going to start pulling out her fingernails. That's who that government is.
Yep. It's absolutely horrible. So, and the thing that really, I mean, you see,
and real quickly, sorry, Clint, and I just realized, and you don't have to say this, but you've talked about this before, based on your own personal relationship, your own familial relationship. I don't know if there's any words of wisdom you could add to that, just based on your experiences, because again, there's something else going on in another part of the world where, like,
The only thing
you know what I'm saying. I just don't want to say it out loud unless you want to talk about it.
No, I'll keep it brief because I'll let Patrick continue on his thought.
Okay.
But all I'm saying is China, what Patrick is talking about, is a clear peer adversary. You know, I mean, there's no mistaking. They want to be in charge. They want to gobble up everything that they can. Their Navy's growing. Their military's huge. You know, they want to be dominant. We stop trading dollars, petrodollars. You know, we get that into, China. They're in charge of it. I mean, God, they're in charge of all the minerals. You know, we need everything from them. I mean, we've put ourselves.
And see, there it is right there. Sorry. And that's why, like, people are like, oh, Trump, I can't believe he's talking about Greenland. I'm like, you really don't see the big picture, or you're a stooge. And, just like, who was that other, it was another, just like, I can't remember if it was like a CEO or, there's been a bunch of people said it, like, who've come out and they said, have praised China. Like, oh, we really like how, I think it may have been the head of BlackRock may have said that. And we love China.
Mitch McConnell's one of those placement people, I mean, he's in a perfect place. His wife has ties over there. It's staggering to think that a majority leader at the time, now not, but I mean, wow. I mean, how do we get ourselves in these positions where we have this peer adversary, that's after everything we've got, literally everything we've got. And somebody said that the other day, Rubio, when he was sitting at the hearing, he's like, we don't get this next 10 years. We won't get anything without asking China for it. I mean, they'll have it all. We'll have to ask for it nicely.
Okay. Hey, you know what? That just made me think. I think if you guys agree to it, sorry to put you on the spot, or we can just do this in after action review, but I think we should have a CLS After Dark, and it should be about the threat of the Chinese Communist Party, the People's Republic of China, the Chinese people are, the People's Liberation Army, and just how, like, and I'm here to tell you, I never worked the China desk. If you want to call it, we'll call it a China desk. I never worked that target set. I encountered that target set once or twice in my career, but that's a no bullshit target set right there, plain and simple. I know that was kind of like, well, what did Mark even say? Patrick, I think you know what I'm like. I can't say a whole hell of a lot more, but boys and girls, that's a real fucking target set. Like, just like our whole digging our own financial graves is a real target set too, but
yeah.
Wait, let's save that for another one, because I think that could be its own episode. And P-Rick, and I don't want you ever get in trouble, but you bring a whole lot of, like, the current events kind of stuff that on that target as well. But let's bring it back over to you, and let's guys, we're at a little over 2 hours. I want to give you guys a couple more minutes wrapping it up, your final comments. P-Rick, we didn't even let you, I interrupted you. Sorry. I tried to drag Clint into my own, debauchery. Oh no, hey, Mark, I didn't interrupt P-Rick. That was you, dude. All right, wrap it up, P-Rick, on that, going back to that original point, and then, or if you want to go someplace else.
I'll just finish on kind of where I was going with the Chinese thing. So one of the most sobering things I've seen recently, and I don't know if you can put the video up or not. If not, I can just kind of describe.
Do you want me to do it?
I think that would, if you can put it up. This to me was, and Clint, I don't know if you've seen this or not, but it's we'll just wait for your response.
Yeah, give me just a couple seconds here. Let me just make sure. Hey, P-Rick, do you want me to do this full screen, or is that?
Yeah, I would do it full screen.
Full screen? Okay, give me a second. I'll get it set up. And looks like it's not very long. Do you want me to play the whole thing, P-Rick?
Yeah, just play the whole thing. So what this is, let me set it.
Yeah, set it up first.
This is a United States Navy recruiting station in a town called Alhambra, California. And this was videotaped from somebody going in, looking for enlistment options within the U.S. Navy.
That's okay. That's what we got going on here, right? Okay, here we go. Do you need to narrate it, or should we just all be quiet and let it run?
I think we'll just let it run.
Okay, here we go.
这是我单位的领导， 你好，简单的 PRT 的一个 brief 就而已，
好的，
不会真正的 PT 的那种。
然后这个签字对吧？
对，签字。
我们签一下那个稍等，要记录一下你的体重。这个还是
有软件，
这是你手。哎，早上好。
早上好。上好。
给你吹一下体重。这个一个来。哦，对的，一个个来。
上去的。
I don't even give me a second here, guys. Boys, everybody watching again, whether you're live with us live or you watch us on demand. Patrick, talk to me about this. I've never seen that video before. I don't even know what the hell I just saw. That's my gut reaction. What did I just see, Patrick? Patrick, you're muted twice. Dude,
Yeah, I'm gonna have the drinks ready.
I'm gonna make you our muted crown, and it's now yours. All right.
All right. Yeah.
What did we just see?
Yeah, that was so that was a recruiting station. There's I think I don't know his name's on there at the bottom of the YouTube, so people can look that up. But yeah, it's Alhambra, California, U.S. Navy recruiting station. You can put Chinese after it. So you've got like American citizens of Chinese descent that now they're bringing in a bunch of Chinese legal permanent residents or, now full U.S. citizens who are of Chinese descent applying to be part of the U.S. Navy. I can tell you from a counter intel perspective inside the military, specifically the Army, and I know the Navy's come up. If you look at like recent cases of espionage, they've all been tied to like the Chinese in some way, shape, or form. Officer, enlisted, it doesn't matter. And for whatever reason, the Navy, maybe that's the reason, seems to be like the last few cases that I've seen working with our counter intel folks. So that should be sobering enough. And, to see that, also, I think there's probably some type of DOD regulation that says, all U.S. government business should be conducted in the English language. There's that. So that was sobering. I mean, so if that doesn't get your blood boiling a little bit, along with the things that happen in these universities, I don't know what will, but we need to wake up. I pray to God that the new administration actually gets some teeth with this. We start sending some of those folks back because they're not here for any good for us. And more importantly, the Justice Department starts prosecuting cases instead of sitting on their hands.
We'll jump in with that now, just on a little different note, but with that, they just isolated a shipment of a, transformer that they found the back door in it to be able to shut it off. And they say they've got, hundreds of these things in here that they've bought through China that have back doors that they found. They know they're in there, they're saying, hey, they could just shut this stuff off. The chaos that they could create by just shutting down the power. And let's just say, oh, look, it's 12 o'clock on Monday. Boop, and they just shut everything off,
Yep.
To have those back doors in our power grid, startling, and then you see that kind of stuff, how far they've infiltrated.
Yep.
All right, hey guys, I definitely want to have both of you back on, and let's actually talk about that, because for me, seriously, if I want to look at it from like knife fighting, like what's right in front of me, knife fighting range, hand grenade range, and then rifle range. These are the three things. I think we're in that, we've got to get through Monday. I still don't have a warm fuzzy, and you guys have done a great job of kind of keeping me calm or whatever, but I don't know. I do not have a warm fuzzy between of what's going to transpire between now and Monday. There's just still too many opportunities, too many new technologies, and I just don't think evil is just going to give up. Then that midterm, or grenade range. Well, I guess that would be maybe China. That's a real threat. You can call us racist all day long. Well, you're an idiot. Go sit at the kiddie table. This is a serious threat to our country. And look, wasn't Janet Yellen and whatever system that she's operating on. So think, guys and guys, Janet Yellen isn't just on her little computer like I am with working off of a router and some, Wi-Fi. Dude, she's on secure systems. Janet Yellen was also just part of that big, huge hack, to Clint's point. They're way into our infrastructure, big time into our infrastructure. And we have brought that about because financially, we've been idiots for, pretty much since, Clinton I'm sorry, not Clinton, but Nixon and the one China policy and all this. We've been played. There's an enemy out there who's smarter than us or more devious, however you want to say it. I like saying smarter because it's warfare. They're like, you guys are so stupid to think I'm your buddy. And it's like, I'm just going to set you up. And they're playing a long game. They're not like, I don't have to defeat you tomorrow. I'll defeat you somewhere in the next 40 to 80 years. And
it's definitely
right up. Yeah.
It's definitely not checkers. It's 3D chess. But luckily, Trump is a 3D chess player.
Yep.
Well, honestly, Clint, this is my last comment, bringing it to you guys for your comments, and then we'll take it out. But you talked about divine intervention. Maybe there is something to be said for that. Maybe there is, again, I'm a Christian, so I don't want to impose my views here on people, but maybe there is something to be said about that, because there be dragons. There are barbarians at the gate. We've got some serious issues, and we better have somebody who knows shit can lead us through this. I don't care if you don't like these metaphors or not, but think throughout history. There's always been a strong leader in a time of crisis that has gotten his people through that crisis. Maybe Trump is it. I mean,
I'm pitching this one to Patrick, and he can finish this thought. Is the divine intervention? It's not just us that are seeing it.
Yep.
Everybody around the world is going, holy shit, they threw everything at the kitchen sink at this guy, and he's getting inaugurated on Monday.
Yep. Amen. Yeah. I mean, listen, that guy has something to do with this, right? So in the world, you're right. The world is watching. So I think that there was definitely divine intervention. I mean, I'm a Christian as well. You look at the different, places in the world, the Trump effect. And I'm by no means am I putting Trump on the pedestal to say that, he's the chosen one, but I think he is an instrument for God's work. You see, different, things around the world, Hungary, the guy down in Argentina, Trudeau, hey, see you later, pal. The new guy coming in, very common sense. I don't know if you guys saw the video of him eating the apple, just basically owning this liberal reporter that was talking to him months ago. This is good. It's empowering. And I think people need that change because it's common sense. Back to Janet Yellen. I don't want to keep going around in circles. I can easily do that. You know that, Mark. But Janet Yellen, when she visited China, if you remember the videos of her bowing to Xi Jinping and all these people, she's some kind of subservient. This is,
and boys and girls, there might be, hang on, just real quickly. There's a naysayer out saying, oh, but when you're a diplomat, you extend courtesies. She's not a diplomat, right? She has nothing, and more importantly, you don't you only would do that if the other person does it to you. You don't come and that in that culture, you just bowed first. You just showed that
I'm
you are
subservient.
Yep. I was just going to say that same word. Yep.
That's just like when Trump was, I think it was at the United Nations, and the king from Saudi Arabia, he walks over and pats him on the back real firmly.
Yeah.
You ain't supposed to touch him. And it's power play.
Yeah.
Pull him in.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Trump's handshake. I'm glad you just said that, Clint. That is a straight up, I'm the big dog. I'm the big motherfucking dog. That handshake, I guarantee he probably does the index finger thing, but he fucking yanks that other person into him. Dude, when he did that with Kim Jong-un, dude, that's why Kim Jong-un became his bestie right then. He's Kim Jong-un's I bet I could sit and eat McDonald's and play video games with this guy because I'm not going to fuck with him because this guy is pretty, he's the real deal. And then North Korea was not a problem. Matter of fact, they were such not a problem. They didn't even bring Dennis Rodman back over there. They stopped even all those shenanigans,
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's wrap it up. I so appreciate you guys coming on here. And for everybody who's still with us watching live, or if you watch us on demand, I hope on Tuesday of next week, the 21st, everybody's laughing. Laugh at me. I'll suck it up, buttercup, all day long. I got a bad feeling, like I'm that guy from the second Aliens, second time I'm even referenced that movie. I got a bad feeling. Oh, you always say that, Frost. Yeah, okay, I'll tell your mother, but no, but I'm cautiously optimistic because if we can get through this, I think Clint and Patrick, and I hope you guys enjoyed their comments tonight. I think they're right. And I don't want to say this out loud. Because I don't want to jinx it. And I'm one of those knock on wood guys. I really am. It could be pretty fucking awesome. I mean, there is a chance, everybody. There's a chance. I don't care if you're from Australia, Greenland, North Korea. If you're watching this video, there's a chance. Peace and freedom. But there's hard work. But there might be a crack in the wall. We might see an opportunity. Again, that's why I did that Dune video. And there's one way out of 100 or whatever. And if we can stick to this path, we can maybe see this through. So that's my final comment. Let's bring it over to Clint and Patrick. And then again, just thanks to everybody who was here tonight and the comments, you guys. We brought some of them up, and otherwise you guys been doing it in the chat. Thanks to everybody doing that. I really appreciate it. And Clint, Patrick, take us on out, guys.
Go ahead, Pat.
All right. Hey, thanks to all the listeners and thanks for the comments. I think everybody's right to be a little bit on edge for the inauguration because of what we've seen, over the past year. The lawfare, the assassination attempts, all the blatant lying by public officials and like the administration to us. When obviously the truth is completely opposite. But I mean, going forward, I think that we're in a much better light. I'm hopeful. Everyone I work with, all my colleagues are hopeful. We just want to do our job. We felt like, like a dog that's been muzzled and told, don't even think about biting somebody. And now all of a sudden we're getting ready to come out of the kennel and they're going to remove the muzzle and we can actually do what we're supposed to do, which is, protect national security and the American public. So God bless.
For the record,
yeah,
just real quickly before you finish, you're in the fact that you chose a Belgian Malinois, like go all the way back to the beginning. He's not wrong about his, muzzled dog. Dude, a Malinois. Like I got the analogy at the very beginning, P. Rick. I just want to let you know, that dog off muzzle, some shit's going to get tore up, boy.
Yeah. And we got plenty of shit to tear up because there's a lot of evil in the country that needs to be removed and dealt with in all fronts. Right. So God bless all the first responders, the people, the doctors, the nurses. Listen, all of us are going to be brought together again this year. I'm a strong believer that there are going to be terror attacks in the country. You can't let this many people in the country without something going wrong. I think it's a matter of time. So I urge everybody to be vigilant, look out for each other, and have a plan how to get off the X or how to get medical treatment to somebody, or just start thinking about stuff like that.
That almost could be another podcast right there, Patrick. But I like how you just ended that. Be vigilant and stay the course. And okay, so here I'll just interject my comment. And I don't even remember if I said it, but this was in my brain. I wanted to make this point to Patrick's point. Recharge your batteries. If you got chargeable items this weekend, or if you do rotating, if you have water supply, rotate your water, get a fresh water supply, make sure all of your electronics are charged up 100%, your phone banks, all that stuff. This isn't the weekend just to go out and go sledding and if nothing else, okay, the wife, the kids, the in-laws, whoever can give you a hard time, but if something does break bad, you'll be better off for it. So I mean, because Patrick's right, and that's an attitude I unfortunately think we're going to have to take. We're just going to have to assume that, and we have to start being men. And like, that's not a slight to the women. You guys are powerful and mighty in your own ways, but I am talking to the men. We've got to be men. We've got to stand up and start fucking taking this stuff seriously. Yep. Clint, over to you. Final comments, sir.
Man, I don't know if I can caveat anything on what Patrick just said. I mean, he was on the money, and so are you. In my life, I know we've probably covered this for the people that are watching. I enjoy my comfort level is in a heightened sense of awareness. That's where I live. That's where I'm comfortable. People watching at the airport and, scanning where the exit's at. That's just me. I do that. That's the man thing to do. You're constantly protecting yours, and there there to do good. You're there as a force for good. I'm carrying my firearm daily. I'm prepared to use it, and I'm a critical thinker enough to know when not to, so everybody, like you're saying, Mark, I think we can all exhale a little bit after Monday, and let this thing start unfolding in a new direction. And I think evil has been on full display for a while, and people are really starting to open up to things, and they're starting to go, okay, this is not the way this is supposed to work. And there was a massive mandate, when Trump gets that much of the popular, pulling down all the swing states, the mandate was loud, and he's got some great people lined up to run these departments and get them in order, and good leadership, people that are smart, that know what the problems are already and are going to attack this. And, we have a president that, is not going to not call Putin for 3 years. Get on the phone, figure out how to come to an agreement on this and stop the killing. This is that it was avoidable. Israel, you see Hamas come out and this is going into effect. We're stopping it, and it's because of Trump. The void, the vacuum that has been created with the lack of leadership in the last 4 years. I mean, it's like Trump's literally been in charge for since the election. Things are already happening, and all we got to do is segue right into this administration and start getting right. So that's all I got. That's my last.
That was a pretty damn good closing statement right there. P-Rick had a good one too. That was pretty damn good. And you kind of nailed it. And I hate to say
I didn't think I could beat Patrick on that one because I agree.
Oh, you did. I hate to say it because the one thing again that no one probably knows, or most people don't know, dude, this administration, stop talking to one of the belligerents in a conflict that we're trying to resolve. How can you resolve a conflict if you're not talking to one of the fucking parties? That's not diplomacy. That's pigheadedness or stupidness. I'm so glad you brought that up. Rick, I think he got you on that point right there.
Yeah. That was great. I think it was.
That's all you got to say.
You want me to come back now?
Well, I mean, I don't know. You do you. I mean, are you guys gonna start,
okay? So here's
battle dancing or something.
Here's how I'll end it. Right. So I'm not in the mode to dance right now, but I'll leave it at this for our the fellow Marines or anybody that has an infantry background. Right. So I'm talking to regular citizens here. Right. So mission of the Marine Corps Rifle Squad. You can take this to yourself. Locate, close with, and destroy the enemy by fire and maneuver, or repel the enemy assault by fire and close combat. The times are coming where, this for people that have concealed carry, get ready. Step outside of flat range mentalities, keep your body in shape so you can move to cover. You can drag somebody with you. Start learning some. I think in the civilian world, it's TECC, not TCCC, which is Tactical Emergency Casualty Care. Those classes are put on by local fire departments and the Red Cross. Be an asset when evil strikes, because I think it's going to. So I'll just leave it at that. But I want to again thank you guys both. This has been a really great time. All the listeners, thanks for the questions. Hey, keep your head high, but also keep your eyes open.
Clint, any snake eater final comment?
Gonna try it.
All right. I'm just going to end it with hey, boys and girls, thank you for watching this podcast again, whether you're here with us live or on demand. You see the quality and caliber of these individuals. This is what we need. This is who you are. If you're watching this, and unless you're the people who don't like, physical fitness or self-defense, or, you don't believe in protecting yourself. Okay. Well, then you might be watching it too, but again, go sit at the kiddie table. But this is it right here, folks. And my hat is off to these two guys. They're taking the time away from their families to be here with us and share their experiences. So again, fellas, boys, I really appreciate it. Appreciate everybody being here tonight. A little bit more of a serious CLS After Dark. Unfortunately, we're probably going to have a few more serious ones coming forward because we are going to do this China conversation. I'll talk to you guys if you don't mind. You guys, can you do an AR tonight, or is it kind of getting late?
I think it's kind of late on my end.
Okay, because we can do it later. Clint, yourself?
Doesn't matter anytime.
All right. Well, I'll probably give you a Clint. I'll give you a call for the AR. Rick, I got to hit you up over this weekend anyway. But again, hats off to you guys. Thanks for coming on here tonight. I know that was a little, again, dark or serious, but I do believe we're okay. We've won a battle. We've got plenty of battles still to fight, as these gentlemen have pointed out. So thanks for being with us here tonight. We'll see you next Friday. What would that be? That'll be the 24th of January. I don't know what the topic's going to be yet, but I'll see you the 24th of January. Hey, at the end of the month, though, I know what the end of the month topic is going to be. It's going to be I got to come up with a good flashy title. It'll be something like Conversations with a Crayon Eater. You kind of already know where I'm going with, like, it just might be war stories with a Marine type of thing. Rick, I know you're a former Marine too. You might want to join in on that. That's not next Friday, but the Friday after. But again, anyway, really appreciate everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Leave a comment. A lot of the guys in the chat, great comments. I see you guys talking to each other. That's really cool. I really appreciate it. If you watch it on demand, or if you want to see a topic for a future episode, please let me know. I mean, I really am just making this up. If you guys are okay with what I'm coming up with, well, then I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. But if there's something specific or very focused that you want us to talk about, or I have a guest on from a certain background, let me know and I'll try to make it happen. So thanks for being with us here tonight. I hope you have a great weekend. Probably is part of the weekend, if you're in Australia or wherever you are. Gene's probably like, shit, man, should I just have another drink and then just make some eggs and just start my Saturday? And that's probably what's going on over there. But thanks for being with us over here tonight. CLS After Dark. Again, huge props, hats off, and a huge shout out to our guests here tonight. Clint from Nemesis Camo and Rick from
Rick.
I don't know. Rick from the land of badassery. How about that right there? So thanks for our guests. We'll see you guys next week. Thursday, we have a loadout live. And I got an announcement because that's going to be the last Thursday loadout live. We're going to have to change those dates. And then next Friday, I'm not really sure what we're going to do. I'll figure that out. And until then, reach out if you got questions. Do the best I can to help you out. I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. I hope you have a great weekend. God bless. But as kind of Patrick just said, and other people say this in their endings, right now more than ever, not to leave you with a negative, somber comment, but keep your head on a swivel and keep your powder dry. We ain't anywhere near out of this stuff, boys. So thanks, everybody. Thanks to our guests, and we'll see you guys again real soon. All right, have a good night. Thanks, everybody. Take care.